Hello there, ladies, gentlemen, and unicorns, and also welcome, Sparky Shock, to this stream. I hope you're all doing all right, because I know that I'm doing all right because I had way too much coffee today. And yeah, wonderful to have you all here. I hope the echo is not too strong with us today. If it is, I can try to get the microphone even closer. Yerzy Hisek says 0% hits. Oh wait, that wasn't Minesweeper. Yeah, on Minesweeper it's good, but thank you nonetheless for playing. And Frank says, I'm quite tired today. Weekend was FOSDEM time. What? Please enlighten us. What is FOSDEM? It sounds like a demo scene thing. I hope it is. And Jerem Watt says, he's live, baby. Hello, Jerem. Thank you so much for dropping by. What's up? Does anyone still remember this? It's like over 20 years old. Talking of things that are over 20 years old, let's make some music here. If the music is too loud or too quiet, please let me know. I think it should be just fine for in the background stuff. Frank says, free and open source developers European meeting. So it's a demo scene thing then. Cool, I didn't know that this was a thing then. Cool, so is this for Linux mostly or just across the board for all different operating systems? Because I've never even heard of the FOSDEM. Sounds cool. One of the world's biggest open source conferences, also one of the most chaotic. I only know of the Chaos Computer Club meetings, and they are chaotic by design. Oh yes, talking about things that are chaotic by design. Welcome to the stream, and also I'm glad I didn't have any technical difficulties yet, but we will, of course, probably hit some, because in the background I have a conversion window open that's converting my gameplay footage from playing Max Payne to a more archival format. Thank you for dropping the link to the FOSDEM org 2023. I think I have to look it up now. Cool. As those who have probably heard on Twitter or seen it in the description of this VOD or live stream if you're here, today I thought I'm feeling artsy. Where's my pen? Already got my stylus there. And my Wacom tablet, but you don't, yeah, it's a bit old now, but you don't need any of that because everything that I'm going to show you can also do with a mouse. It just takes a bit longer, usually. Yeah, but before even talking about what you will need today, let's talk about what we're going to do today. First, Jeremy says, I'm excited to drink each time your camera overheats. Don't get your hopes up, because now I'm not using this camera, but I'm using this camera here, and this is the old Logitech camera, just with a nicer lookup table on top of it. So yeah, the image quality is not as good as it could be, but this time the camera won't overheat. So I'm sorry for your drinking game. We have to do the good old drinking game. Whenever I say unicorn, we should have a sip of water. Frank says, several thousand people, 700 plus talks in 20 plus rooms. No registration needed, just show up if you feel like it. Sounds like an unconference. Does anyone still know what an unconference is? It's kind of the same thing. It's just, drop by, and if you feel like doing a talk, just step up and do a talk. Very cool. Yeah, thanks, Jerem. Cheers. Let's switch over to something that's maybe more interesting. Now I am gone. It's not an unconference, the talks are scheduled. Okay, so then it's not that chaotic. Right. Let me find this, exactly this one here. Because today I want to talk about doing paint overs and how this can help you in your game dev, especially when you're in the early stages and have done maybe a lot of gray boxing or just plopped in some textures here and there. And you're at the point where you feel like, yeah, I think I want to discover the theme, the visual theme of my game, or just make it look good, or just play around with colors and lights and shapes without actually implementing all that stuff, where it's just, yeah, it's like the grease pencil in good old animation, where you just paint over certain things and say, yeah, in the end it should look something like this. So it's a vertical slice of one frame of your game, essentially, that you'll be producing. And Cursey Boot doesn't hear the music. Let me make this a bit louder. Can you hear the music now? Because it might be a very quiet track. I normalized them all, but it should be fine. But thanks for pointing it out. Oh, it's very, okay, good. Yeah, we don't want it to be too quiet then. I can turn up the volume just a little bit more. Good, good. Sparky Shock, thank you for confirming. Maybe it's too loud now. Frank says, with no registration, it's very busy and it's kind of a gamble whether you can attend the talks you want to or whether the room is full and you can't get in. Yeah, this always sucks. I hope, at least with those tech conferences, the chances are that they are somewhere stored or recorded digitally that you can watch them later, I think. This is the good thing with those things. Okay, music is better now. I mean, it's a great track. It's a great track. This one is from Deus Ex, from Alexander Brandon, and I was so enamored with the music. You say here in the crawler at the bottom, it says from the album Best of Alexander Brandon. And yeah, I made this album myself, printed a nice label, printed a CD, covered everything just because I enjoyed his music so much. So yeah, this is where this music is from, and it's also very, very old. Recorded and live streamed. So the best of both worlds then. So if you just fall asleep during one conference or one talk, you can catch up later on. But of course you can't ask any questions then anymore. Right, where was I? Paint overs. Yeah, so as I've mentioned in the beginning, I rediscovered Max Payne. I just wanted to look at something in the first level. At this point, I don't recall what I wanted to look at. I think it was just one texture or how the texture resolution was on a billboard or something. And for that I had to play pretty much most of the first stage of the game, and it drew me back in. The game was released in 2001, and back then I remember it looking absolutely spectacularly, but let me show you how it looked before. Hide, show all other layers. So this is how it looked before. It's probably a bit too dark. Let me make this a bit brighter. This was not brighter. This is brighter. So yeah, this is a still from Max Payne. It's 22 years ago. And while I was playing it, I felt, of course, that at certain points, man, how good would this game look with nowadays technology? I mean, back in the day, like I said, this was a graphics demo par excellence. I think there was even a 3D benchmarking tool that used the engine that Remedy made for this game with a Matrix-inspired scene. Yeah, it was when Matrix came out around this time. And yeah, like I said, back then it looked absolutely spectacular. Nowadays it still looks good, but of course a bit low poly, and especially lighting effects, they are very sparse and small and yeah, not very, very spectacular. And I thought how it could look like. I was just curious to see, yeah, how it could look like if you did a little paint over, as you can see here, how it could look in today's engines, for example. And I thought, yeah, this is also a good tool for your own games, for yourself, if you just want to, like I said, play around with visual styles and try certain things. So for us today, I have a couple of stills selected from Max Payne. Assets, where they are. No, this is not the assets folder that I want to paint over. Yeah, that's the one. Let me bring this up and make this thumbnails as large as they go. Few extra large icons. Hopefully that you can see what the possibilities are. I mean, the game is quite dark, I have to say. But are there any certain things that you, or any screenshots that stand out? I will make them full screen now, one after the other, while I'm talking. Yeah, the game, I'm playing the game in the good old retro resolution of 1024 by 786 pixels. So this is what you're seeing here. So this is, for example, this one guy getting shot, and yeah, Max in back alley somewhere in the subway. The door exploding. Well, there's an explosion which blows the door, and it was back then it was just breathtaking because it was this Matrix style speed ramp where it explodes, then time slows down, you can see the explosion slowly billowing, then it would speed up again. I've seen this dozens of times back then. I never grew tired of it. Yeah, here we have tiny mechs somewhere in on the snowy road here, next to a hotel sign. Yeah, you hardly can see what's happening here. We are fighting this dude here. Max here is in the foreground doing a side jump, and there's one guy just had been hit by a smattering of our shotgun. Yeah, there is just a couple of frames later. So yeah, because I thought we start with something like this, because it could be your games could also be very low poly or even 2D, and at a certain point, yeah, it's just a nice starting point. And with those things, the good thing is with low poly graphics, I don't spend too much time tweaking, so this should be relatively quickly. And I will also hope to share some of my tools or how I approach things, and little things that you can also use, especially when it comes to how to draw light and how light interacts. But let's have a look at the chat, what I've missed. Frank said, I go every year. Well, I didn't go in 2007, since 2010. Wow, this is long. Or so. I also stay in Brussels for the weekend because some friends from different places are also there. So those are busy evenings. So thank you so much that you still, after all this, you still came to drop by in here. I really do appreciate it, but it sounds like you had a great weekend. And Sorceress says again, Abend, mein Pixely-Freund. Thank you so much, Sorceress, for dropping by. I'm just letting you, the audience, pick one thing as a starting point that we can do a paint over and make it more atmospheric, where we can try different things, where I can show you what you can do in terms of doing paint overs and stuff. Because it's like I said, I was quite surprised how quickly I arrived at certain things. Frank says, with modern games you can't even see the polys. It almost feels like polygon. Does my badumts work? I think it did work. Polygon. That's a good one. Personally, I would say we start with something, maybe this shot here in the alley, where we can just play around with making it a bit more atmospheric. I like the one with the posters on the walls. This one here, you mean the subway? If this is the one that you mean, please type subway or S for subway, and as we had the other ones, yes, the subway one. So if there aren't any people against it, because the other thing, Jerem says, I want the posters tool. Well, then it is settled. Let's go for the subway. The good thing is you can almost see what's happening there. Right, so thank you. This is Photoshop. Of course, you can use any graphics tool that you want. It's just for me that I'm most used to Photoshop / embolded by Adobe, because I've been using it for longer than this game is out. So yeah. Okay, so how do you start? Usually with doing paint overs. And one thing that I like to do sometimes when I'm not quite sure where I want to go with certain things, well, let's not make I'm just going to copy it and make it very small, like thumbnail sized. I mean, by nowadays standards, 10,024 is almost thumbnail size, but let's go with 200 by 150, so that it's real tiny, where it's just, at this point, the good thing is you've all picked one of the very contrasty scenes there, because I always say, if you look at something, if you squint at something and still know what is important in an image, you're already on the good side. Half of the work is already done. Because just to show you other things, as you've seen here, it's very hard with those thumbnails, if not impossible, especially with this one, to really make out what the frick is going on here. So this is one thing that I usually try when I'm doing paint overs. Now I'm working on this very small thing, and I have here, let's pick the soft default brush. So it's this brush here, because with small things you tend not to get too much into details. This is my problem. Then I start working on very fine small details that don't matter to the overall thing in the end. So what is important about this one here? What do we change? Yeah, we can play around in terms for the look, because right now it is very I would say very flat in terms of the lighting. We could make it more dramatic. For example, how do we make a subway more dramatic? One thing is we could just increase the contrast. I create here a new adjustment layer, just so you see the properties that I'm working with. One thing that you can do is just make it a bit moodier, like so. The problem now with making it moodier is when I zoom out, suddenly we have the similar problem that it's very hard to see what constitutes foreground, what constitutes background. So, but for now I would say just for testing things, I would say, yeah, let's go with this one. Turn down the saturation. But what we then need, of course, is somehow to make the foreground stand out a bit more, that we can see what is going on. Properties window now out of the frame again. So, and for this, I'm just picking colors and drawing here roughly on top of it. The thing is not to paint. It's more painterly. You're not trying to depict something. It's just pools of light where you want the pools of light. For example, I say here I want this to be relatively foggy and bright, so that the foreground, for example, Max here, gets real dark in comparison. So again, it's just a very rough paint over with opacity of 24%. Now I'm just dropping it here in front, something like this, and maybe have here. Is this maybe too strong? Probably. Again, it's really just playing around with colors, and when you make it small and see, yeah, this blob here, this should be the foreground, and here as for the background, it's essentially guiding the viewer's gaze into the depth of the image, into into the perspective. Maybe what is always a nice thing is to use vignetting. This is the darkening towards the corners. It's some people love it, some people hate it, and when I see it, it's mostly overdone. So I always say you can use a vignette when you don't notice it. When you just feel it, it has this slight tunnel vision there. So overall, let me just make here a quick before and after. So this is maybe something where we can work with, just to make it a bit moodier. Maybe have there some more haze or dust in the air here. We want this to be oppressive. The other thing, of course, that we can work with is color. And as I've seen it with in many movies, is when they want to depict something that is not very friendly or nice looking, especially in those subway tunnel systems. The thing is, they always make the white balance incorrectly, so to speak, so that the fluorescent lights are really greenish. Let me demonstrate you. My properties, maybe I should put them here, where it's more like a greenish appeal there to this entire situation. So something like this. Again, it's not meant to be viewed at 100%, but just at this very thumbnail thing, and you see it completely got a different feeling to it. Cool. Right. Jerem Watt says, "Oh man, my homies ain't the biggest fans of vignettes." Yeah, I mean, you can always make them fans of vignettes as soon as you show them how they're handled best, right? Or properly. Like I said, if it's too strong, I mean, some of you probably know that I work as a colorist, so essentially it makes making looks for film, TV, movies. I work at Red Bull, so it's mostly sports clips. And I had there one cameraman who was really into vignettes. He wanted to have everything vignetted. But I thought, okay, now it's getting maybe a bit ridiculous, where the sky is this beautiful baby blue sky, and then towards the edges it just became black. And then I had a different camera person, and he was more on the opposite, where I thought, yeah, maybe a slight vignette. And he was super against it because, and here's the kicker, because he shot with such expensive lenses that they wouldn't show this vignetting. And essentially what I would do is reintroduce the things that he paid good money for to be gone. So yeah, it's leave it or hate it. And Martijn Fraser music, yes, of course. Martijn, who doesn't know Martijn, is the founding member of the DOS Game Club. You can see him at dosgameclub.com, and yeah, he also is a musician, and he made the music for a new DOS game that was Slipspeed. Yes, this is correctly, I always want to say Sylpheed or Zilpheed, which is not a current game. The piss-flavored mist is looking comfy. Exactly, so I think we should go for this. Okay, so once we want to introduce something like depth, the first thing that I always do is when I have this thumbnail, this rough idea where I want to be going, is to separate here what I need in terms of when I want, for example, when I want to have something with perspective and I want to paint something that only affects what is far away from the camera. I don't want it to bleed into the foreground. And the first or easiest thing for this is to just do some cutouts here. And this is what I'm going to do. You don't have, of course, to cascade the entire thing or pop everything onto individual layers and use it there. But like I said, just with some things it really helps, especially there with your main character. For this I'm going to be, I think, probably the most thorough. As for the others, then we will see. Where I'm just trying to, wherever it's necessary, I try to do cutouts but work my way around them. Otherwise your Photoshop or whatever composition is just becoming a bit too large. Okay, not 100% sure here. The good thing is that I turned off, where's my plus? I turned off anti-aliasing. So we got here very nice and easy edges here. I can also turn it out, anti-aliasing there, switch it off there on my selection tool. Again, it's not going to be super thorough and perfect. This is the wrong one. It's just so that you save yourself some time separating foreground from the background, essentially. So I'm going not to cut this out, but just to copy it and paste it on a new layer. So this is just my new layer. And what else? Maybe here the mailbox here in the foreground. I'm not quite sure. Maybe we want to keep here maybe we want the billboards to be backlit or have a light source there on top. But anyway, yeah, let's start working with what we have now. So also it's good to organize things here in Photoshop. I have my bins. And the cool thing here with bins in Photoshop is that, for example, if I put Max here in a bin, in a group, and use an adjustment layer, for example, yeah, let's just, for demonstration purposes, let's just pick your levels. And you would think it only affects your Max, but it affects everything that's underneath here. And I thought there was a bug with Photoshop, or this is not how you do it. So here is Photoshop tip number 1. If you don't want adjustment layers inside groups to affect anything outside of the group, just click here on the group. I can't click it when I'm zoomed in, sorry. So I click here, it was. And it says here pass through. And if you switch it here from pass through, sorry that I always have to zoom out, but the mouse clicks won't register when I'm zoomed in. So if you switch it from pass through to normal or anything else, as you can see here, my adjustment layers now only affect what's in this group. So again, this is something that is super helpful. Right, you know what, I just pin my properties up here and hope that I still got here enough to work with. Okay, good. So, right, so now I'm essentially just trying to recreate what I have here in terms of contrast. So this is gone. So this I stack just on top. So I need the properties out here. So I'm just starting with curves to make something, this needs to be outside of the group, to make the thing just moodier, or like we said, more sickly, or here more contrasty. So I hope it's not coming too dark there on the stream, but I think this should give us a nice starting point. One thing that I want you, that I should have done first is, right now we're here in 8-bit, which is good. You got 256 levels of red, green or blue, but especially when you're working with multiple layers of depending on the subject, maybe just a little bit of transparency, suddenly you get certain artifacts like banding where there's just not enough values between two shades of a color. So the first thing that I usually do is I switch my image from, where is it? I don't know it because I always have a shortcut. I think here it's under image and mode. Of course I can't click it now, but where's my mouse pointer? Image, mode, And as soon as I zoom in, oh, okay, now it works. Image mode, and there 16 bits per channel. You don't need 32 bits, but 16 bits per channel is usually good. This is one thing, and the other thing is when you're doing, when you're working with curves, to make something darker, you can see here I made this, this S curve. The other thing is, of course, let's just reset this. The other thing, of course, is just to pull down this part here. But the downside of this is you're cutting things off here. Now the black is equally, it just starts to clip essentially. So when I make this brighter again, let's make another adjustment layer on top where I make it brighter. And you can see here, there is no definition there in the blacks anymore. So what instead you want, I mean, if the tools provided, instead of just pulling in here the black levels, just turn them down. So there's still a separation of levels here. So of course this is darker than is what is next, but overall you can still make out individual shapes. So this is what I always use. Sorcerer says, isn't there a setting to allow lightness above white and below black? I mean, yes. I'm not quite sure whether it's in Photoshop. Because the thing is, as soon as you cut something off, even if it's in a layer-based approach, if you have a layer on top, then those things are gone. I mean, you can save it in 32 bits precision, but then many other software won't play nice with it, and colors behave weirdly if you're not used to it, because there is a lot of color science and mapping going on in the background. So this is why I always try to stay between 1 and 0 and not let things clip. I mean, the same thing goes for the other side here. When I'm pulling in here my white levels, at a certain point the levels just clip and it's going to be ugly. So if you want to make something more contrasty but still retain this definition, this is the what we say the classic S curve. It's a bit like how film stock behaves, where when something becomes super bright, before it starts to clip, it just becomes more saturated, as we say, where the bromide crystals on the physical film just get more saturated until they can't take lightness anymore. But yeah, this is just technical stuff. But for us, it's just making things moodier and trying not to pull this one in at all. So quick before and after. It's darker now, it's moodier, and we said maybe we can even make it more moody. So I just have another curves effect here on top. Why on top? Yeah, just that when I'm not sure. I mean, I'm happy with how this looks, but I'm not sure if I'm breaking things here now. And should I break things now, I can just deactivate the curves that I have here on top. That's all. Right, so, but we want to go in for this super dark and depressing, moody piss screen look. So I would say we stick with this, so then we can now work a bit more with lights. Because when we want to play with lights, we first have to make it dark. Okay, so as we have seen here, this is our thumbnail here. We need this pool of light. For example, I would say we're coming out from the darkness. There is this pool of light that's leading us into the game. So where do we put this? So I make a new layer where I'm painting on top of the background, and I'm just picking a color here from the background. In Photoshop, it's just holding down the Alt key, and when you have a brush selected, you can just click and hold, and then you see here in the color wheel what color you're going to pick up. It's not really important what color, maybe that it's just a little bit lighter, maybe like so. And as for the brush, you can see here I'm usually working with standard brushes. This is just a soft brush. But what I like to do is here with my opacity, it's never 100%, because when you draw with 100%, you just drown everything out. But I just want to keep stacking paint strokes on top, so I'm going with this opacity of around 30–40%. So just to make it here a bit hazy, I'm just painting over, and each time I make a new stroke, then it adds it on top of it. So example, if I'm just holding down, it will never exceed the opacity of 35%. But if I'm repeatedly drawing on top of each other, you can see here, in the end, it gets fully opaque. This is also just something that took me a while. Okay, now I'm I made way too many undos. So yeah, let's get back to it. So I make this a bit more hazy just to separate here the foreground from the background. And all I did was just draw one color, and it looks like there has been some fog going on. And because we cut out here the foreground, if I didn't cut out the foreground, I mean, it would still work largely, but it's good that we have cut out the foreground, because now I could theoretically change here the color and the depth of this fog. So right now I would say it's a little too much. No problem. Just turn down the opacity of the layer itself. Like so. So our fog is naturally drawing out the lights or making them disappear. So we want to have these light sources. I want to keep them very strong. So I make a new layer and just pick the light source here. And now with a hard brush and maybe the opacity like 88%, this is too dark. What is my point sample? Because this is also, when you're picking colors in Photoshop, you can say point sample and sample all layers, but no adjustment layers. But in this time, I want all layers, including adjustment layers, so that I get here the same color on top. So right now, again, this is just drawing on top, because I want the lights to be relatively bright. Now they have this sickish green. Let's make them even brighter there in the middle, like so. And you can see where this is going. Suddenly those lights, this blotch was a bit too big. Increase here the size. Suddenly the image becomes more contrasty again. This is when you take out the contrast with something, in our case the haze, and you want to bring it back somewhere else. So again, if I turn out here the haze, and here with my light sources, or just the light sources, you can see that suddenly it has a nice balance again. Frank says, I think the automated unicorn is trying to be disrespectful about my work. It is rolling on the floor laughing. Well, for now. And CNDK, yes, 99 says, am I looking at Max Payne? Why am I looking at Max Payne? Nice Minecraft music, by the way. Oh yeah, that's Minecraft. Because I thought we take something that is low poly and where the lighting is nice, but it could be so much more atmospheric, and this is why we're trying to draw over it. So again, I'm just painting here my blotches, because I will blur them anyway slightly. I just want them to be here in the right position, where I can blur them just ever so slightly, because now it feels like that those lights are really bleeding or into this fog here. Right, so the next thing, of course, again, if you look at here our thumbnail, is we want light interaction. I mean, right now we have here the light sources, but it's not very clear what they are illuminating. I mean, there are many different light sources, but what also helps to separate foreground from background is somehow those rim lights. So this is what I always like to do when I'm trying to make something stand out from the background. For example, here with our Max Payne, let me get rid of these stray pixels here. This we don't need, this we don't need. This is the good thing here with old games. It's really, at a certain point, you're working with individual pixels, despite being 3D. So what I wanted to show you is I'm going to hide the selection now, but I'm just picking here a color, and I'm painting here on top of, I mean, this is too hard. This light fringe here is too hard for now, but you can see the effect of it. If you just have here this one strong rim light here, it really makes the character stand out more. And most of the time, this is really all that sometimes it needs to make the foreground stand out a bit more. Again, I'm just way over the top here. I'm just trying to evoke this sense that we are being illuminated here by what's in front. Again, because the light is relatively soft, it's not so easy. Usually it's nice when you have here, maybe on this position, a super strong light and then the light fringes themselves. Yeah, you don't really have to think or consider how the light is bouncing around in this room, because it's yeah, self-explanatory, essentially, where the light is coming from. So in our case, I think here, yeah, I'm not quite happy with what's going on here, so I just decrease here the opacity for now, because again, I'm not finished here with the light sources. Okay, let's continue here with the light sources. I make a new layer here in the color of the light. And let's pick a soft brush here. And again, I want to make this here a bit brighter here in this sense. Again, now my brush is still too hard in opacity. I want the opacity down a lot, but I want the brightness in the color of the lights. This is important that you have here with the color of the lights. So the lights shine down, I would say. Again, very, very soft brush, very soft brush. So now it looks like those lights are shining down. And we already, as with fog lights like this, it's very quick. You can very quickly create a mood here. And of course, as we all know, of course we all know it, the intensity of light gets diminished by the square of the distance. So with the first meter from a light source, you get half of the light. With the next meter, you get a quarter of the light. With the next meter, you get 1/8 of the intensity of the light, and so on. So when you're very strong to a light source, the fall off between the brightest part and the darkest part is much stronger as when you're very far away from a light source. So let's keep this fog thing going. And the next thing is here, what are those things here? Yeah, those are my brush strokes. I want I really need to make them a bit less splotchy. So I'm just again, I'm picking a very soft brush. Where are my default soft round brush with a very large size there and a very small strength. This is now the eraser that I have here. No, this is not the eraser. This is the smudge tool. I want the eraser. There we go. And hardness down, opacity, let's say. So now I'm just taking here back something like so. Good, so let me switch this on and off. And yeah, maybe this can also benefit from a bit of more blur. Something like so. And the next thing is we can also, of course, look into blending modes. I mean, right now I'm putting everything on top of each other. It's like you have some clear transparencies and you paint something on the topmost and lay it on top. It occludes what is underneath. In our case, not as much because of the low opacity, but we can use different blending modes. For example, if we add or use color dodge, then you can see different algorithms get employed in how those two pixels that are on top of each other, how they get calculated, how they get combined essentially. So I like to use screen or add. Add is more realistic in terms of that, yeah, it just pixel values get added. It's just like in real life with light. When you have one light source and the next light source on top, they don't cancel each other out, they just get added. And this is what the blending modes do. Of course, it's much more complicated underneath, but I think with add, just, yeah, the pixels get added. It's not the same amount of light because your display has a different EOTF and so on and so forth. So I'm not getting into this. CNDK says, I know absolutely nothing about art. Learning about these things is interesting. Yeah, thank you. As long as it's interesting, like I said, you don't have to draw. You don't be good at drawing. It's just painting blobs of light and seeing if it looks right. As always, if you squint or look at things there in thumbnail size and it still looks good or makes sense what you're seeing, then you're doing a good job. Right, so back to our thumbnail here. I mean, we this is already this sickly greenish light that we like. Maybe we can make it even more greenish. So I'm going on top of everything where I have here my darkening curves here. Let's put a color balance there and shift everything a bit more even into the green. Maybe this was too much. I'm just playing around now. How about magenta or red? Yeah, it looks very hellish. Or if I go magenta and cyan and try to balance out to make essentially a white balance of the green light that we had before and make it brighter again. I mean, now it is very looky. It's not what I wanted to do, but again, at this point, it's just playing around. So more green, but less saturated, I would say. So again, on top of everything, another adjustment layer that just controls here the saturation. Maybe something like this. Of course, what's also important is when you stack different effects, in this case curves and exposure effects and color effects on top of each other, of course it matters what is underneath. So every effect here corrects what is underneath. For example, if the first curves that we have that make everything here darker and more contrasty, when I put it up on top, suddenly the image looks differently. So this is also maybe something that you can play with when it's just, especially the more you do with lighting effects, the more drastic things can change depending on where something in the stack happens. Do you know Falco Pixel Prophecy, the musician? And Frank says, the author of XKCD has said that when he was young, he thought he could never make comics because he couldn't draw, come up with jokes. He found out you don't need to how to draw. But the jokes of XKCD, they are nerdy to the best degree. So yeah, exactly. You don't need to know how to draw if you want to pursue something. Somehow you will find an outlet. Right, the other thing that I said that probably is going to look interesting is if we make here those panels backlit. Let's try out and see. You know what, I could save this. This would not be too bad. Yes, yes, I know of Falco the musician. Rock Me Amadeus. I think this was his most famous single that was also internationally successful. But yeah, he died like also 20 years ago. Had somewhere an accident. Probably caused drug overdose. Rock stars. Yeah, let's make those things backlit and see. I think this could work very well, because how I'm seeing it. Again, let's get back to our little thumbnail here. And I mean, we're here now a bit more in the piss yellow. So let's try to get here the same color here in our little thumbnail. I think that's it. And what could very nicely work is, let's pick this 100% cyan color here. If we have here those panels here in a different color and really casting also some light onto the scene from this here. I think this could look very nicely. So let's try this. So I'm here on the background and I'm just very crudely selecting it all. The good thing, like I said, is because everything here is very low poly and the resolution is small, it really helps you. You don't spend many hours trying to cut something out really nicely, because it has so many polygons and very jagged and busy silhouette. No, it's just polygons. Right, okay, this is my selection. I will copy this now and paste it here on its own layer. So this is just what I've copied. And you know what, maybe I make a selection here and put this into its own bin. You never know. You never know whether it's good to have it in its own bin. And Sorcerer says, yes, yeah, I liked his music, also Der Kommissar and Vienna Calling. Yes, of course, we know this. Yeah, Der Kommissar, this is also a song about, as far as I know it, about party culture in Vienna and lots of drugs. But yeah, the commissioner of the police is going around, and you never know if he might catch you, and then the party's over, essentially. CNDK says, I used to make comics like that when I was a little kid. My stick figure art was on point, but the jokes were terrible. I still have about 100 pages of terrible comics. It is fun to check them out after so many years. I think because the cool thing about stealing from yourself is it's not real stealing, and when you come back to something that you created many years back, maybe there's something in it for a project that you're doing now that at the time you never really considered, and suddenly you find a nugget in there that could work for you. So yeah, always good looking at your old stuff, I feel. Okay, let's make those things, let's illuminate them. So again, I'm here in my group. I make the blending mode to normal. Again, this is important, otherwise all my adjustment layers would affect what's underneath. And let's make, look at this, instant backlit panels. Register 4-character domain and post scans there. Exactly, it's that easy. Just find 4 characters that haven't been already been squatted on by some domain squatter. Yeah. Yeah, as you can see here, just from doing this curves effect there on top of it, it looks backlit. This is cool. This is something that I very much like. What I don't like is the color, because again, it's essentially what it is telling us is it is the same light source as we have here on top of those lights, and usually those lights are of a different lamp, so to speak. It's indicates I really shouldn't unleash that stuff on the world. Yeah, of course you have to select what you want, but I mean, it could be nice. You never know. You never know, and if it doesn't cost you too much, go for it. Right, you're right, different color. So again, I like to work here with color balance. Let's make this rather bluish on the midtones. Yeah, the controls here for those things, they aren't very intuitive, because here when I say preserve luminosity, it really changes what's going to happen. And usually I don't click preserve luminosity, because then suddenly it changes the exposure. As you've seen, if I click here preserve luminosity, I'm zooming in now, so it's this little button here, and what this does, suddenly all the white is blown out, just so that it's relatively the same brightness than without the effect. But this is not what I want. I just want the color to be there. Okay, so I think I like this. Maybe it's even too saturated, or I mean, it's not too saturated. There are too many different colors there. There's this purple blue, then there is this cyan, then there's the hair turns kind of green. I want it relatively of a single color. So I'm going to say hue saturation. That turned down the saturation by about 80%. Now it looks shitty again. What happened? Well, I have to have the desaturation before doing the color balance, and now the color balance works differently, right? So this also means that if I turn up here, you know what? I will do this again after my hue saturation here. Then I got the color balance. Now it doesn't need to be that strong anymore, because it is now looking this blue, because before we had this greenish tinge to it, so it doesn't need to be that strong anymore without a lot of saturation. I hope this makes sense. Right, okay, so it's blue. It's blue now, and again, this is just the horrible fog that I drew. I mean, this looks very, very bad on its own, but overall it works. Not 100%, because what I'm seeing here is that this fog weirdly bleeds into or over these billboards here. So you know what, I will just I just blur it here with Gaussian blur. And again, this is important that your image is set up to 16 bits per pixels, because otherwise you start to get banding artifacts, as I think belabored quite often before. So now here, if we look at before and after, if you look at what the fog is doing, now it's less defined. But this is good, because we want it to be more foggy-ish, right? Okay, now we have introduced a new light source, these blue panels, but they don't look like a light source. Again, maybe I don't want them to be affected here by our fog. Let's try this. I just move here my group on top of the fog, and maybe now it's a bit too strong, but I like what is going on here, because those things aren't that affected by the color there of the lights. So maybe I just turn down their overall brightness a bit. Yeah, this is too much. Now they look like bad TVs. You know what? Now I'm going to do this, that I'm turning down here the white level. And yeah, I think I like how this is going. Yeah. As for the saturation, maybe just a little bit, something like this. Okay, yeah, like I said, now we have introduced a new light source. What does this mean for us? This means first that I want to get here, I forgot to delete the actual pixels there on max. So let's do this here, brush, block. I turn out the background so that I can, because when I'm drawing these rim lights, also those pixels, those unnecessary stray pixels will show up. And what I also see here on his shoulder, somehow this didn't carry through here. So I'm going to select this manually just to make sure that the silhouette of our main character is always relatively okay. So I'm going to copy this from the background, paste it in place here, and if I turn it on or off, you can see here this is what was missing. So I just merged those two layers, and this is now our max. Well, there again we got here some stray pixels. There we go. Maybe these here. Again, because I want a nice silhouette. What's with those clips there? I think this is when you reload, and Max dropped some clips there. Anyway, so new light source. We have a new light source. This means this light source needs to interact now with the scene that we have. And this is, I think, the most fun part of doing those paint overs. I create a new layer and pick now this bluish light color there. Get me a very, very small but very hard brush. I'm still having here the selection on max so that I can just paint and have here the light somehow interact with max from this side here. I mean, this looks very bad for now and not very professional for now, but like I said, make your brush very, very soft and just keep trying. And I mean, we're not finished right now, but again, the harder your light sources are, the easier it is to draw those light fringes there. Because now I have to think about, okay, where is his color casting a shadow on the rest of his coat, and so on and so forth. And also there we get a bit of blue from this side here. This is too strong, of course. And as always, blur. Blur is our friend. Gaussian blur. That's a bit too much. And with just a little bit of blur, it makes much more sense. The other thing is, of course, the more reflective, the more shiny, the more metallic a material is, the less blurry those highlights will be. But I mean, here on this leather jacket, nope, this was not what I wanted. This is what I want. This is now my smudge tool, where I'm just smudging out here a bit of the color here, because usually the smudge tool is like using Comic Sans as a font. It's a sign of you have no idea what you're doing, and this is not how the pros do it. But sometimes when you think you know what you're doing, and in the end it's always, if it looks right, it is right with image editing. So I would say something like this. And again, maybe change the blending mode here from normal to add. And suddenly we have here added this slight blue light. Of course, now it's just reflecting here off max and not into the scene, which gives it character. Will you keep this VOD, says Jerem? Yes, I think I will upload it to YouTube. I think many people can benefit from this, so yes. Okay, cool. So now I have here my light interaction, but first, again, I want this light here to be somewhere reflected, literally, in the scene as well. So again, I'm just picking here this light color with a 80% opacity here on my brush, soft round brush, relatively large in size. I can make it even larger and even softer here, the hardness, turning it down. And now I'm just painting over. I mean, now we see a problem here, what I'm doing, because no matter how much I paint over this, the billboard will always be on top. This is not what we want, of course. The billboard should be behind it. So here is my billboard group. So of course then I need to make sure that my paint strokes are here on top of the billboard group. And now it feels more like, yeah, this is somehow interacting with this foggy, with this damp environment here. Maybe it's also casting here some light onto the tiles. I mean, now this is, again, this is too much. You can see it here in the navigator. It looks blotchy and ugly and not really what I want. So again, blur to the rescue. Let's blur it much more, like so. And I think, I'm pointing with my finger, I think this part here, if you look again, always look at the thumbnail to make sure, or just to verify what you're doing looks right, because here I think, I'm not quite sure that this really looks how it would illuminate the floor here, at least on one side. So you know what, I will start over. Put it here on top. Let's call this billboards. Save. And again, I'm going to paint here how it's going to be. Again, if I keep my mouse pressed, or in this case the stylus, and don't pick it up, no matter how often I'm drawing over the same thing, it will never go beyond this 18% opacity. When I take it up and put it down again, then it will add to it. And if I do this multiple times, you can see how things stack. And at first, this is not very intuitive when you're coming from traditional drawings or traditional media, but then you can use it to your advantage. Like I said, because now when I'm not lifting my pen, I can make sure that it's even here on both sides. And now I want it a bit stronger here, where it's closer to the light sources. And let's make my brush a bit smaller and do it once more. 1 and 2. And I see here, yeah, maybe I need to cut out this mailbox here. But if we look here again in the thumbnail, it looks a bit better. Now I'm going to just blur those things together, and ta-da, it's all already looking better. So if we just look at the background here and disable our max, you can see here why it's important that we have cut him out, because now it feels like he's separated from the background. And the automated unicorn pooped a rainbow. This is great. Okay, cool. So this is the light here on the ground from these panels. Maybe we want here some on the bottom, on the top, but probably not, because then, I mean, let's try this. When I make this here brighter, suddenly this looks important, the part up here. I mean, now I'm exaggerating things, but it looks more important than it is. So maybe I will just leave it out, because this is not where we want to go. And maybe where our character needs to be going is this part here. So then maybe we could, now we're at the point where we say, yeah, if there may be a blue pool of light, maybe from another light source, then it is very clear where we should be going. Yeah, this just as I painted there on top of everything that I had. Yeah, just as a test. Like I said, we're experimenting here. It's if you paint in a light source and then realize it looks bad. Maybe like here with the illuminated billboards, it might be too much, or something is missing. Like, you know what? Let's make a red light source and plop it here. I just changed the blending mode to add. Yeah, maybe it's too dark, the red for a light. And suddenly, if there is something there in the fog, reddish there, I just keep blurring it. It draws a bit your eye, but yeah, this is just an aside. So yeah, let's keep working on this. Right. So one thing that I've noticed is, of course, now since we introduced a new light source, we need how it interacts with the environment. We have the interaction here with the atmosphere, or do we? I don't think. No, I just painted it here. How it. The interaction here on those diffuse surfaces. So yeah, I forgot to do this. So again, I'm just using my soft brush. As you can see there, this is too dark. I need this as bright as it is here, and the opacity, I turn it down to like 9%, because the brighter something is, the more you will see it. If I have something with 8% here and draw it on top of something that is very dark here, you will see it much easier than something that has maybe like 30%, when it's not, the difference is not that stark. So I'm just trying to envision how this would, if there would be more of a fog here and we're going away from the camera, how much it would light up, illuminate the fog essentially. I mean, this is too much. I'm blurring. There we go, it's blurred. And this interaction here with the fog, I mean, it might now become a bit too bloomy. But I think this is just a matter of taste at a certain point. Because of course, if you blur everything, then suddenly, since everything is blurred, so the image looks overly softened or something. And I might already be guilty of that. So again, if I just turn off here the fog that we drew, everything comes apart. So this haze, this fog here is imperative to our image. So what happens if I make it brighter? Or what if I make it darker? And this is, like I said, this is the part where you can just experiment, and immediately you can see, okay, what if I make all the lights brighter here, which affects the fog, and suddenly you don't have to spend an hour in Unity just to sync everything up. No, it's really just you can have here one control that changes how those things interact with, just to get an idea. So personally, I would say the fog is a bit too strong for me. But if I turn down the opacity, the light sources here, those things also get a bit too strong. So maybe I turn these down as well. So now it still looks a bit hazy and foggy, which I like, but not as intense as we had it here in our first thumbnail here, which is okay. Again, you know what? Maybe we want to look back. Now let me make a snapshot here, and this is how we imported it, and this is how it looks now. So you can see here, things have happened. So of course, since we are maybe making a game, it would be important to make sure that what is important to the player does not get drowned out by the overly impressive look that we want, but those things that are important for the player are still somehow legible. For example, if now we know that everything is very dark, but we want to make sure that our player sees all the necessary pickups, at this point we can say, okay, what if the pickups have a little glow to them, or have a little blinking dot or a sparkle on them? So again, this is cool. Now we're here in the concept stage. We can try things out. Yeah, one other thing that I wanted to do is this mailbox here. This is making me unhappy. So nope, I didn't want to move this. Again, I'm here on the background, and I'm cutting out here the mailbox. Good thing is that it has not that many polygons, so I can just keep doing it like this and don't have to be very thorough. Good, so copy, and I make a new group here for the mailbox. Paste, it's not a group. Now this is a group. So now the mailbox here, suddenly the light, of course, gets behind the mailbox. And of course, the light here needs somehow to be reflected there on the mailbox. Again, depends on how shiny the mailbox is. Why am I not seeing it? Yeah, because I'm drawing with 9% opacity. Let's try 80% and see just how things look. Okay, this is too strong. Frank says, a little sparkle, have you been chatting to the automated unicorn? Well, the automated unicorn is clearly influencing me. Thanks for the reminder, unicorn. So I like here because now if our reflection is like this, it's very shiny. I mean, of course, it's too strong now, but let me show you something of how to draw nice shiny metal reflections. Is if you make your brush very small, but very hard. So here the hardness like 50%, size 2 pixels, and now I'm just drawing here at the edge, somewhere where I think there might be a round edge. This is already a bit too strong, but suddenly it feels like, yeah, somehow the light is playing off these surfaces here somewhere. There's a reflective thing here, and maybe I'm overdoing it already. So I'm erasing something like this, but if it's just this very, very sharp, very small, very defined edge on a rim on an edge, then it might come off as realistic reflection of what's going on here. So it's quite cool. Thank you, Automated Unicorn. You won't need pencils today, but yeah, this is what I told people. Right, so where there is light, of course, there is shadow. Max Payne has this very soft shadow underneath him, and I think this works in this particular location here. But we could also... Infernofy is here. Thank you so much for dropping by. We just... Let me show you again how we started off. We just tried to make paint overs where we can have more depth to it, more of an atmosphere. And we started here with this good old Max Payne thing here. Right, okay then, what if, like I said, we want to guide the player to advance into this corridor. I mean, right now it does not look very inviting. I mean, this is the point, but as you probably have heard, players are like moths and they are drawn to the flame or where there is light. And yeah, thank you, it already looks much, yeah, it looks different. I don't think the original looked bad, especially for its time, but it looks different. And depending on where you want to go. So let's say we want somehow to draw the player's attention to what is going on here. We do this by just having a light source here. At a certain point, it has really become a sort of an in-joke that players always go where the lights are, and also the players nowadays. I mean, players go where the lights are was maybe something new with 20 years ago with Half-Life 2, where I read it in my Half-Life art book is you can guide where players go if you make just a door illuminated at the other side of the map, and if a player sees it, then they will go straight ahead. And nowadays, I've heard it in game reviews is there is a lot of signposting with colored lights and stuff. But I mean, it's not bad. It works. It works. It's like with Naughty Dog games, those yellow ledges that tell you can jump there, you can grapple there. Okay, let's introduce here maybe a spotlight. Okay, how to draw a spotlight? Quick spotlight. Let's make a new canvas, and I just show you how to draw spotlights, because usually if I want to draw a spotlight, let me show you how I would have done it or did it way too long and way too often. So let's say we want here a relatively bluish light here, and I make here a soft round brush. Oh, that's maybe a bit too large there. I mean, maybe something like this. It's bad. Let's make it a bit smaller here. I said smaller. Yeah. And make it maybe like so. And yeah, the hardness, we need to make the edges soft, right? But somehow this looks, of course it looks bad, but it doesn't feel correct in the perspective. Right, so this is why sometimes when I'm doing this, I make myself a little, like in this case, a little helper canvas to make a better spotlight. One thing is with spotlights, let's assume it has a circular shape. Come on, circular. There we go. Something like this, or even a bit smaller. Yeah. Also, what's important here, especially if you work with blurring and stuff, like I said before, always make sure you're working in 16 bits per channel precision, again with blurs and everything, otherwise you get banding artifacts, which is not cool. So let's make this, I would say, half the size of the canvas because we will blur it, and if you make it the full size of the canvas and blur it, then the blur will be cut off. So let's do this. And no, this is not what I wanted. I just fill this here with white. I'm going to duplicate this and blur it here with a Gaussian blur. This is called the penumbra. Like so. This is the part not between in the middle of the spotlight or the edge, but yeah, this half shadow, half light. Fanofy says, are you aware of the global game jam or are you more Ludum Dare focused? I don't have time for the global game jam, but yes, I'm very much aware of it. And if people, I mean, this is probably also why many people this weekend have been tweeting so much progress, because yeah, there's the global game jam. But for me, I already have a lot on my plate with Ludum Dare. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. So what we have here now is one super sharp circle and here a super soft circle, but what we want is somehow in between. So how do we get there? So I duplicated the circle and made a Gaussian blur, right? And now I'm duplicate the circle again and I want a Gaussian blur. Let's just separate this layer, but the Gaussian blur I started with here 48, so let's say this was 50 pixels radius of the blur. Now I go with 25. So if we put together here the 50 and the 25, it gets a bit more defined. So I do this again, have it here on its own layer. Essentially, I'm trying to make a quadratic blur with a quadratic fall off, essentially. So that it looks like this. So this looks much better. Maybe we can even have here. Now the final thing is here, this super sharp thing here, the disk here. I will blur one last time with a radius of 5. So I just kept halving this blurriness, and when I overlay everything on top of each other, it has this much more realistic appeal of a blur. Or maybe I wanted it to be a bit softer, then I can turn out the sharpest one. If I make it softer still, I could use that one. But I think for us, maybe this works. Maybe I blur it a bit more, or like this. And now I have this nice spotlight. Now I combine everything and copy it over, and it looks like this. It's okay, but of course we want to have it in perspective. And so I can use here with my transformation controls, once I have them, then I can just squeeze it. I said, just squeeze it, like so. And suddenly you see how this thing behaves here differently when it's in perspective. So the upper and the lower edge are super sharp, and it really becomes this streaky appeal here towards the sides. And this is what I struggled with the longest when I wanted to make something that looked like a reasonably well perspectively distorted spotlight cone at the ground, because I always got this wrong. So for example, I want the player here to go to the right. So the light is coming here from the right. So I just paste it here. And on this group here, I can also make masks for the entire group. Now everything is not obstructed, the other word. Everything is visible, and now I switched it the other way around. And now I can just paint where I want things to be visible. Because I have here my opacity at 13%, let's make it 70%, and a very soft, yeah, maybe this was already too strong, because I want also here to have here a bit of a fall off. Again, too strong. Maybe I need to have the opacity at like 30%. Yeah, something like this. And now I can, with 100% opacity, I can just occlude what I don't want to show. I said occlude, like so. Maybe it's still a bit too round. Yeah, something like this. So suddenly there is this target for me as a player there in the background. but you hardly can see what it is, or it doesn't really feel like it's a light source because everything is so hazy in a sense. And I'm always a big fan of colored light sources. But first, let's see what Fanify says. They say, okay, cool, because I missed out on Ludum Dare, but because Global Game Jam is organized by my university, I could take part in that this weekend. You are now my de-stressing tool. Oh, you're very welcome. I hope also the music. Oh, Lee Jackson, very nice. I hope the music is also not too stressful. I always try, when I'm doing art streams, I try to channel Bob Ross, and I can't. I'm a bit too enthusiastic. Probably also had too much coffee, but I will try to make it a bit smoother. Fanify says, okay, wow, normally you don't want these differently warped, is this the right word, images when scaling stuff, but here it's really needed for a realistic look. Yeah, with warping and yeah, things, I think the most important thing is when you combine different images is perspective, perspective, perspective. If something is wrong perspectively, you don't have to be an expert to see it. Everyone knows when you're at street level, usually you can't see the rooftops of the buildings on the other side of the street. So this is something that I always make sure when I'm combining things that I at least get the perspectives roughly correct. With other things, of course, you can cheat a little bit, but yeah, in the end, if it looks right, it is right. And Kanehorn gave the automated unicorn a cookie. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have here our light source where the player should be going. Let's emphasize this. I don't want to delete this light source. Let's also make it as we have here. Everything is a bit foggy and suddenly there is no fog here. The light source that should bait us around the corner should also be, yeah, not this. Should also have a little bit of fog to it. Something like so. I'm making it blurry here. Blurry still. Here a bit more. And I'm just using Control F, which repeats the last effect. And my last effect was here this Gaussian blur with a radius of 5. So essentially, I'm just blurring and blurring and blurring. I mean, right now it looks super bright and it's too much, but I just keep blurring, and now I will reduce some of this because it should hide around the corner. So one thing is, of course, to use the eraser. What is also possible in Photoshop, because sometimes when you're working with a brush and you want to just take out what you did, because in Photoshop, when you switch to an eraser, it is a completely different brush. I mean, if you set it as a completely different brush. When I'm doing pixel work, I use here this block eraser, which is very helpful when you're doing pixel art. But you can also have here the pencil, which essentially is like this block, but it's just a 1-bit eraser, which is also not what I want. When I say here a brush, then of course I need to set it up as a brush. So what I'm getting to is sometimes you want, you have here a brush completely set up with which you draw, for example, like so, and you want to keep the same brush but take the paint off. And for this is my Photoshop trick here. In the mode, it's usually on normal. If you say clear, then you keep the brush, but it acts as a eraser, essentially. So yeah, I don't know why it took me so long to explain this. So right. And I turn down here the hardness because I want this to be here behind this corner here. And it scatters just a little bit here in front of the corner. And voila. Now here's something that's also maybe a bit too strong. Maybe let's make it like so, that it draws here. Expressionism, thank you. Frank says perspective is interesting. You either get it entirely right and people are happy, or you get it spectacularly wrong and call it cubism and people are also happy. I don't get it a bit wrong. So yeah, I think with everything art, if you go something that is not the correct way, go all in. If you take a photo and you don't have a tripod and you're not quite sure if you're aligning it correctly, well then really go 45-degree or 35-degree tilt. suddenly it's more artistic, and people won't complain about, yeah, it's slightly wrong. Or if you shoot something that's slightly out of focus, go all the way up or all the way down. Just have maybe just one blade of grass in the utmost front in focus. Voila. So yeah, with everything, just getting things a little bit wrong always feels like you don't know what you're doing. Right. Okay then. Now we have here something to guide the player towards too. Would it also, again, now I'm just spitballing, would it also help if the rest here is a bit brighter there? Oh, I'm still here in the clear mode. So if maybe this thing here is just a bit brighter here, this part here, again I'm just squinting at it and I'm not looking at the details that I painted over. And you know what? No, I think this is nice when it's suddenly here becoming this kind of dark hole, and suddenly there is this light that yeah, draws my attention. Talking of lights, I'm not quite sure how much I like now our color of the lights. I mean, this is what we had here, and for that it looked good, but you know what? I think we've moved past this thumbnail and we can just, again, get creative. So when I want to change here the colors, I'm just trying to make here the most, and make it the easiest for myself. For example, here in this group, this is the haze, and those are the glows on the light. And I put this here in its own group now, that I can switch the group from pass through to normal. And now I can say hue and saturation. So now I can just change the hue of the fog and the lights, how I like, essentially, and everything is connected to it. So again, just work smarter, not harder. So as for the lights, maybe I think they're just too saturated in their weird colors. You can make them a bit lighter. So again, this is the fun that you can have here. Maybe if I make it a bit darker, you can still see here how it changes the feeling of everything here. This is not what I wanted. Yeah. So I think I want to keep it a little bit greenish here and make it here a bit darker, like so. And the question is now, well, it's not that dark anymore. What have I done? There we go. Again, the cool thing is that we separated individual parts, that we can change here the background without affecting what's happening here on max. So I think, or now here it's just on the lights. I think this is what we wanted. Make them brighter, make them greener, make them redder. Or with everything, yeah. You know what? I think maybe we shouldn't go too bright, but also not too dark. I'm a bit torn. I'm a bit torn between what we want. But one thing that I've again also learned from color grading is that you also want to hide things, or well, not draw attention to things that are not important to an image, to a shot. Is this for a video, says a digital clue? No, it's not. It's just concept art. So essentially, I don't know when you have joined, but let me quickly show you. We're just using an old still from Max Payne, and think, okay, how could this look when we make it a bit more moody, where it's just paint over, where it's just playing with different lights, and how you can use lights and essentially doing this paint over thing for your own games when you're just trying things out, because it's much faster. You don't really need to draw. All you need to do is draw blobs and then use a blur and then change the color and intensity of those blobs. I think this is the gist of it, right? It's just when you add a new light source there, paint in a painterly style, you think, okay, where is the light coming from? How is this light interacting with the atmosphere? How is this light interacting with the surfaces? And where is this light not interacting? Shadows. So yeah, I have to say I like it. And like I said, yeah, what I was referring to is to hide things or not emphasize things that are not important. And in our case, it would be the ceiling. So right here on, you know what, even on top, or no, actually we can draw this here in the background section here. I just pick here one of the darker colors here in the background, pick a very soft brush, and what is my opacity? Why am I not seeing things? Why am I not seeing things here? This is, oh, of course, yeah, I'm painting here in this group, and this essentially is, I just limited here to this. So this is essentially the alpha channel of just the light source that we created. So of course I don't need to put it there because then we don't see it. I put it here on top of the billboards. So yeah, so I'm making here, this is what I'm doing. I'm making things darker now, but I don't want it overall, just here on top. And again, blur to the rescue, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And yeah, now it's a bit too oppressive, but I can move it up and moving the layer up, and suddenly, yeah, it's not, again, it's about not emphasizing what's not important. So before and after, can you see this? I zoom in a little bit. Yeah, it's what's happening here on the top. Did we already try to make this Max Payne scene look like it's from Silent Hill? Apparently this is what we're doing now. No, I just wanted to give it a bit more of a atmosphere, like with those, yeah, that it feels like it's damp here, something is, yeah, it's, there's something in the air and it's not good. So yeah, Silent Hill, a little bit. Right, but again, it's, I think this exemplifies a bit of the process, yeah, of just trying things out. I mean, what we can also do is, what I also like to do is introduce some strong lights, usually, or colored lights. I mean, we have here this light where clearly we want to go there. I don't know why, but we want to go there. The other thing that I showed before was, I mean, it was very nice that we have here this spotlight that's shining directly at the camera, which is always something that I like. And again, this is how it looked before. Show, hide all others. So yeah, it's dark and low poly. So once we are happy with the light and the appeal, again, the check is thumbnail size. Do we know what is going on here? Okay, we get here light on one end, but there is someone standing there, and this is, again, I think important that we know at a glance what is the important part in this. If I make it full screen now, this was not full screen. If we make it full screen now, I think it looks much more interesting than it did before. Again, maybe here the blur on the lights might be a bit too much. Not this one. I like this. Yeah, it's this here. So instead of this, I will delete this blur now. Let's select. I'm here on the background now, and now I'm drawing up a selection, and I'm just painting here the lights where I want them to be selected, that I can copy them and put them on a new layer. But again, that it's just a bit softer. Does this make sense? Then if I'm doing a selection there with the lasso tool. So again, I'm really, it's a painterly approach to to doing selections. Sometimes it's, especially if you have to select maybe hairs or something, or vapors, it really helps to just paint a selection instead of trying to use here the shape, the lasso tool or something for a selection. And thank you for feeding the automated unicorn. Yes, it tummy made noises because it pooped a rainbow before, and now it's empty. At least this is my implementation of the automated unicorn. So really again, I really appreciate it that you feed the automated unicorn. Okay, by the way, when I'm hitting X, what this does here is it changes the background and the foreground color. So when I'm painting one of those selections, it's just a black and white image. And by changing background and foreground, essentially I can include or exclude certain portions, and this is what makes it really fast here when you're drawing, no, this was the wrong one, when you want to draw selections. So yeah, this is reasonably well. So I hit Q again and have here my selection, copy it and paste it on its own layer. And now I pasted it outside of this fog layer that we have here. I don't know if this is good or bad. Maybe I want to place it here underneath the fog layer. Maybe this, yeah, I'm not, maybe let's keep it on top. Because as always, you want to keep things realistic. So of course, it's not possible that you have a bright light source and or maybe you have a lens flare and suddenly something is occluding this lens flare, because this is not possible. I mean, you can occlude the light source that is causing the lens flare, but you can't block the lens flare, because the flare, all those shapes are happening inside the lens. So this is something that sometimes I see it where I think, yeah, this is visually, optically not possible. And wow, we have here Tim Baudet rating with 43. Oh my God! Thank you so much, everyone. Let's do a shout out for Tim Baudet. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Shout out. Oh God, I hope I can do this. I can do this correctly. Thank you so much for dropping by, and all the wonderful people you brought with us. Tim. Oh God, I hope I'm. Baudet. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Yeah, hi, I'm Phil. I like unicorns and coffee. No, this is not coffee. This is coffee before it goes through the coffee maker. Yeah, I make videos, I make games, and right now I'm talking about paint overs and concept art and how you can use paint overs to play with stills or work in progress shots of your games. Maybe you have a 3D game and doing a block out or something and you're not quite sure where to put lights. And with doing paint overs, you don't need to know how to draw. All you need to know is how to place blobs and do blurs and just zoom in and out. And for now, what we're doing here is I'm just trying to, I'm playing the old Max Payne. And yeah, this is how it looks in the game from 2001, and I thought, yeah, what could it look like nowadays if we just change the lighting and the atmosphere a bit, and what is possible, and yeah, use this as a use case of what things could look like. And right now I'm just here working on the lights here on top, that they look a bit more realistic but still have this little foggy, hazy quality to them. Cool. Timothy says no worries on name. Bow and arrow. Oh, this is cool. And TS just says, well, this is so this is where Sorceress is. Apparently, Sorceress, you are very well known, not only among the Canadian Twitter people. No, this is Twitch. I'm sorry. I'm not used to this many people. We talk about Falco here. Yes, Falco. Alles klar, Herr Kommissar. There we go. And yeah, the automated unicorn, of course. When we say unicorn, we should all have a sip of water, because it's funny and also healthy to stay hydrated. Of course, Sorceress is everywhere. This is why she's a sorceress, right? Okay, I'm just finishing up here on those light sources, and I just say I want to have them here add for screen. Maybe again, now we can see how far we want to turn them up. So if it's just a little bit, might be too little, and something here in between. So, and what I'm still going to do is I will duplicate this now and blur, our good old friend. You have seen it, how often we have used the blur today. And blur it here a little, yeah, just a little bit here. So that it feels a little bit hazy. It feels a little bit foggy there. And with that, I would say, if we wanted to make it more atmospheric, excuse me, more atmospheric, add some more light sources as we've seen here with the billboards. I think this is about it. And to sum up, also we get here this pool of light to draw players towards too. So just again quickly how it looked before, you know what, I will just duplicate here the background and place it on top of everything. This is not everything. This is everything, so that I can do a nice before and after. I can't do this when I zoomed out. No, this is too much. Zoom, let's say 125% zoom. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, yeah, this is just painting over in Photoshop and trying to make things look nice, look interesting. Just give it a bit of more depth in a sense, and yeah, just trying to play with lighting and what's possible. And of course, you can also do this not just for 3D games or existing games, but also for already games that are just in a very early prototyping stages. Because again, if you just place lights or colored blobs somewhere and see how it feels, because the most important thing is to have a direction, have a sense of where you want to go with a certain look. And it's much cheaper and easier to just paint over something, even if it's thumbnail size. As soon as something is legible at thumbnail size, you're already home free. Right, now make Cyberpunk more 2001. I mean, we could. I got some more Max Payne screenshots for us to paint over. Yeah, this was my pool of light that we made here. Because the other things that I want to try is maybe when we're on the outside, on the outdoors, because as we've seen here with this one, in the game it said it was one of the biggest blizzards in New York's history, and there was hardly any snow in the original game. So this is also something, if you just add some particles, some atmospherics, suddenly you tend to hide the shortcomings of, in this case, of the source material, and already evoke a bit more of an atmosphere. I think I'm all about atmosphere in the sense that a little bit of fog, a little bit of colored lights that are bouncing around somewhere, it goes a long way. Paint overs are what the publishers put on the game boxes to make the graphics look cooler. Exactly, I'm a bullshit artist then. But yeah, this is true. Anyone remember Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun? Because I think in a German magazine we had their explosions, and there was the reflection of the explosion in the river underneath, and it was clearly a bullshot. But I bought the game regardless, and it did not look as good as it did back then. Yeah, talking about Cyberpunk, you know what we could try? We could maybe try to make Max Payne look more cyberpunky. So right, so those are some of the more sources that we have. Yeah, this was us today. What could work as cyberpunky? I mean, this one is super dark, so maybe we could make this more legible, because even back then, I mean, I can't see anything what's happening here in this scene of the game. I mean, right now I'm also looking into the lights and everything is very bright, but yeah, maybe we can try our hands at this, or maybe what I also like here, some outdoors scenes. Maybe this one? No. The hotel one? I mean, this could look very cool. Maybe we could try this one. Or yeah, one here where he's running on, or here maybe this one here with the ship, with the boat, because again these you hardly can see where the player character is and things. You know what? Maybe I want to try this. Or maybe wild guess. Any one of you have games in production and you don't mind me going completely ape shit over a screenshot of it and just playing around with it? Or probably, yeah. No one likes their work to be destroyed by some rando on Twitch. And Tim says, I might. Oh really? I have to put you off on this now because I'm feeling itchy. I still got an hour or so left, and I still got my trusty Wacom pen. Yeah, by the way, all these things, you don't need to have a pen, it's just a bit faster. And the other thing sometimes people ask is, what brushes do you use in Photoshop? And as you've seen me paint this thing here that we just did, I just used the hard brush and the soft brush. That's it. I mean, of course, when you want to do something atmospheric, it helps to have some sort of scatter brushes that do little things, but again, you can do this just if you put in the time, or even make a brush yourself. Absolutely fine with you destroying it. Can I link a Steam page? Yes, of course you can. Please also wishlist Tim's game, because I have a feeling it's already a good one. Do you have what's enabled, says Tim. I think I will upload this after this session to YouTube, and by tomorrow it should be there. But Accelerate is an excellent game. Didn't Martijn also make the music for Accelerate? But I mean, this already looks very nice, I have to say. I like this retro feeling that you have to the graphics. So I'm not quite sure what I could add to this, frankly, because it looks already very pleasing and very nice. Tim says, I might have to leave the keyboard, but I'd like to catch it. And there's already a demo? Oh, there's already a demo outside. Outside released, sorry. Yeah, by the way, for those who don't know it, the goal of Accelerate is to make it through a track with your egg in the basket, and of course everything is physics based, so of course you have to be very cautious, like as if you're having a basket with one raw egg. It's not a raw egg, it's an uncooked egg, but yeah, I think this is the game, right? In only 27 days, this is amazing. Yeah, again, I'm really sorry that I don't think that I can add to this, because you already nailed, I think, this low poly art style. I like your color palette with these subdued greens and the yellows. What I often see is, especially with pixel indie games, where the sky is just super blue and the grass is like RGB green, where it's like zero R red green blue. Yeah, it's zero FF zero in terms of green. So yeah, I think the only thing maybe where I could do some, no, everything looks nice. I'm really sorry. I can't do anything. Your game already looks good. Cookie, right? You know what? I think I can work more with this one. Let's see. Let's do a quick one with this one, okay? Unless, of course, someone else wants me to again go crazy over their game. Where was this? This was the dark one. There we go. So in this scene here, let's bring it to Photoshop. In this scene here, it's now a bit more visible, but you know what? I just make here a curves effect, so just that you can see what is going on here. So the scene is we're standing here in this blizzard in a port somewhere in New York on the Hudson, and this is the Charon. This ship, there's a dead guy, and there are some floodlights over there. So yeah, again, Infernify, I'm really sorry if something is too perfect. I can't fix perfect. Yeah, this is my only flaw. Frank says, I mean, you could take one of those Accelerate screenshots and turn it into a moody horror game. I mean, yeah, if you're up for this. Infernify says, you could take a picture of your of our global game jam game, but it has that hatching shader. I don't know whether to paint on that works. Hatching shader. Oh, yeah, I mean, it would make it harder. It would make it harder, I have to say. Not improving things, just changing them. Okay, I can't improve, but I can change. Okay, what can we make a moody horror game out of? You know what? Maybe this one here. Maybe this one. So let's copy this floppy. And let's try to make it moody, horror-y, darker, sinister. There we go. This is so nice. Okay, how to make things moody and foreboding. First thing is turn off the lights. Simple as that. So again, I start here. Oh yeah. What I should have done, now I'm doing it right away, is change here to 16-bit channels just to be able to work with. I mean, I'd suggest the beach scene make it harder, but the beach scene, the one with the friendly, did I just close? I think I just closed Steam. No, I did not. There's Accelerate. And Sorcerer says, here's a screenshot from my voxely FPS game if you're interested. I am interested. Let me copy this. I already like voxels. So I don't see a lot, but you know what? Let's do both. Let's do both. Since we're here, mode 16 bits per channel. And no, I don't want to close. I don't want to close. I just want to increase where is exposure. There it is. Just so that we can see something. Okay, so this looks already like you're trapped underneath the pyramid in Minecraft. I like this. Okay, let's do both. Let's do both then. Okay, first let's start with this one. And yeah, to make it more moody, let's turn off the light. Exposure. Turning down the exposure. I mean, not quite happy with what's happening here when turning down the exposure. Turning up the exposure in Photoshop always works well. Turning down just looks not too good. So instead of using the exposure, again, I'm using the curves. The downside is when you decrease here the lightness, the saturation stays the same and feels a bit too strong. So one thing is, let's start with making things darker. And Nick Bros is here. Thank you so much for dropping by. We're just trying to make this screenshot from the wonderfully pleasing Accelerate. We make it a bit more moody and horror-y. Right, so what's always important, like I said, is that we know the player character. So this is, in this case, is this dirt bike here. So before doing anything else, I really want to make sure that I have this character here separated from the background, just in case that I might need it. And I have a feeling that we definitely going to need it. I can see where the polygon count went into, and it is the golf ball egg. I hope the music is nice when you don't hear me talking, but oh no, this is not what I wanted. I closed the selection prematurely. This is when you double click in Photoshop, and yeah, sometimes you accidentally double click, especially if you had as much coffee as I did. So with this raindrop here in front, I'm not really bothered by. Good. So as the next step here, I mean, I like it already that it's raining. Again, this helps us make it moody. And then I have to fix here what I broke. So I'm just saying, let's do this selection here again. So I'm going to select this, and hopefully I'm not doing it. I'm not making it worse. There we go. I don't know if I really needed this good, but you never know. You never know. Copy, paste. So now it's on its own layer. For now, maybe we also need to add some more layers to that. Good. Next thing is it's too cheerful. It's still too cheerful. So let's drain some of the saturation out of it. Not too much, that we still have the appeal of colors, but not that much. So cool. So the next thing would be, I'm just touching here now the greens, and you can see here what is happening here when I'm turning the saturation all the way up. Then essentially I can see what is going to be affected by my selection. And in my case, I want to turn down the greens a little bit and even make them more bluish. So suddenly, just before doing anything, just if I turn the greens more bluish and turn down the saturation and brightness, of course, it looks a bit, darker. So to make things more moody, turn down saturation, turn down the brightness or the lightness, And the next thing is, of course, I can still here see some of the sky, some blue of the sky. This needs to go. We want it to be oppressive and bad, so I just take here my soft round brush, the opacity of, let's say, yeah, let's go with 72, and make here this background, make it a bit darker here. So yeah, I'm not worrying too much about the transition for now, but just so that we don't quite know where we're going with this. Then of course, I selected a brush that I didn't want to select. There we go. There is not much happening on this side here, so I think I can make this also relatively dark. And let's also darken here the foreground and then just reveal things that we actually need. So I would say here maybe in front of our dirt bike, maybe our dirt bike has a little headlight where we just see just a little bit there of the landscape. So for that, I make a new layer underneath the dirt bike where I will just draw our fake light source. Again, I'm just working very soft, and I would say, yeah, maybe the light is, let's say, here. And of course, because this needs to be on top of everything, because right now it is here underneath the darkening, I need to put it on top of everything. So now that I have it here on top, now I can see that it's really bright what I'm drawing. So let's say my eraser needs to be strong. So yeah, just so that we know, so I would say from here the light is being emitted by the headlight of the bike. And for that, where do I have it here? Yeah, let's start here with my already pre-made light cone and put it into perspective, literally. Maybe we want to make it a bit larger, that we can see here more of the environment. So this is just essentially where, if this were a planar thing, where it would go. But of course we need to adjust it for what is happening there on the ground. And for that we can even say filter, distort, which would work best. I think liquify. Liquify is usually, yeah, I need to show the backdrop. Liquify is usually used to make, for beauty shots, to make models more gaunt, or yeah, just touch up certain parts that don't stick out enough or stick out too much, but something dropped there. Alles okay? Good. My wife is fine, we're good. So now with that I can just adjust here. Essentially I can just pull and drag here this shape. This is not what I wanted, but if I just do it a little bit, I can, bam, yeah, this is maybe a bit too much still. I can simulate that this ground is a bit wonky. Liquify again. Here that I just do it not too much this time. There we go. Always have your light cone handy. Exactly. Good thing we made it. Of course, now this light cone is just white. This is not what we want. We want it to illuminate essentially what is underneath all our changes. And for that, I'm going to select it. If I click it, it selects the opaque and transparent pixels accordingly. So it's now I have this selection, and here there is the darkness happening in these two adjustments. So I'm going to say I want a new adjustment mask, and yeah, with what I've selected, and now I reverse the selection. So this is what we see underneath here in this light cone is actually what the image looked before. Of course, now we need to paint out this stone block here. Brush, I mean, we could use a brush here, or we can use the lasso tool, whichever works faster or better. I mean, right now I enjoy painting, but yeah, you know what? this is not going to work. This is going to look a bit too soft for what it's supposed to look. Wrong. There we go. So now it's excluded. Yeah, the edge is not too well. But yeah, maybe like so. Maybe like so. Yeah, the edge is a bit too blurry, but yeah, it looks like something here was wrong with the depth buffer. But like this, I think it could work like this. So maybe also. Again, I'm just using here this smudge tool there on the edges, just to make them a bit more I wouldn't say realistic, more like organic. I think that's the word. So this is one thing that we have here. This is everything that makes things darker and moodier. I want to keep adding to this, so I'm just picking here the color that I already had. Opacity, let's go down to 5%. And see where the things that are still bright are. Again, where there is light, there is darkness, and where there is darkness, you want light. So right now, everything is a bit too dark, I would say. But this is good, which allows us to come up with some sort of light sources. Right, so we have here our little dirt bike. So maybe this should also go underneath here where we darkened things. But we want, like I said, we want it to stand out, to make it a bit more easily readable against the background. A red tail light, says Frank, and this is exactly what I wanted to go to next, because lights always fun. One thing that I also want is maybe that the visible light cone that we see here from the dirt bike. So for that I have here a folder called assets, and in this one I get here this spotlight. This I stole from somewhere, where someone just said, look, I made a nice cone light in Blender, and it's a very nice cone light. So I just going to use it and see how well it works. If I just plop it on top of everything, and now the blending mode is the wrong one, so I will go to add and transform this. I just change here the pivot point to the origin of the light, and this already looks kind of good. I'll make it a bit less, squash it a bit more. I think that's what I want to say, or not, because I kind of like this is. So maybe I just adjust it. I just adjusted that it shines a bit more down. And yep, I kind of like this. I like what's going on here. Looks excellent. Thank you so much. I'm very ecstatic about the aesthetics. So now, of course, we can change how bright it's going to be. So I think with this is quite nice. And I will add here also a layer mask, so then I can delete certain parts of it, but without, of course, deleting things. So I'm just occluding things, so then in case later that I realize that, oh, I erased too much, that I can bring it back. This is I think the most important part of layer masks is it's not destructive. I mean, look at this. Look at this. What a time to be alive. And now hold on to your papers, because we will introduce a red tail light. And I will try now also to use here the spotlight and just see if we turn it red, if it looks too silly or if it looks good. So probably should have changed here also to add, and I want to rotate this. Of course, then it should not be as strong. So add, and I'm going to drop a colorize effect on it, and you can probably guess what colorize does. colors. There we go. So this is a very strong tail light, but the good thing about this is, of course, it's very legible. You can see what's going on there. I will probably paint some more, I don't know, reflections or something there on our little bike there. But for now, I kind of like it. Maybe it's a bit too strong here. Yeah, like this. I think this is nice. There is the now playing has somehow, I think, died. Let me find what we're listening to right now. Oh, it's okay. It's from The Sims 2, and apparently I don't have an ID3 tag. I was just worried that my foobar integration was somehow broken. Okay, then of course now we introduced some light sources, and everything should, I mean, we're in the rain, right? So we need to have more interactions. Let's call this excellent. More interactions with the rain and the lights on the sources. Frank says, I think I'd go less strong, but I don't know. Yeah, we can always take it back. We can always take it back. Not like in real life. But yeah, let's just try, and then we can tone it down again. Because now let's just paint there. No, this is wrong. I want here this color there. I mean, now I'm painting here with very high opacity, so this is probably not what I should have been doing. So I'm just thinking, okay, where is this thing bouncing off? Maybe there is, the ground is wet. Then we have here some reflections there, right? Could this be realistic reflections? Does this look right? I don't know. Let's zoom out and see. Does this look right? I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I turn it back a little. Here some more. Something like this. Yeah, I like this. So maybe, as Frank said, this might be too strong. Let's turn it down. Where is my properties? Yeah, my properties. I mean, it looks like it's shooting something out the back here. So maybe we also need to adjust just the how far this backlight shines, or how big this scattering is. And for that, you know what, I just make a new layer out of it, or not a new layer, I just turn it into a smart layer, which also means that it's non-destructive. And try to make it maybe like so. Yeah, I can't do what I want with this, so maybe just making it to a new layer is not enough. But yeah, I would say this is relatively okay. And the automated unicorn already put another rainbow. This is good. Right, as for more light interactions, I mean, this is just the tail light. No, I deleted everything. For the light in front, again, everything is wet here, so we need somehow to hint that things are wet here, and we have some reflections going on. So reflections is this thing here at the same plane reversed. So maybe if you have a reflection here of the light source, of the front light, the headlight, it should be mostly somewhere here. Should we go for this? I don't think this will look good or right, at least not how I have it here, but we can add some more lights that we can say, yeah, the light here of the headlights spills around here, maybe onto this block. And also maybe we can even draw in, I think this would look nice, if we draw in some more shadows. For example, why can't I draw in shadows? Oh, of course I can draw in shadows, but I need my opacity a bit higher. Yeah, something like this. So that we're hinting at a bit of more structure there, of more texture there in the mud. And as always, just blurring it a little bit. Like I said before, if you blur too much, things start to look overly soft and not correct anymore. And I think this is what I did here now. But if you blur sometimes too little, things look just plain incorrect. Like what I've been doing here is I should undo most of this. Yeah, because this is why you want to work non-destructively, and right now I'm painting directly into this already warped cone light there. So I might want to undo this because I'm not adding anything, I'm just making it worse. Yeah, one thing that I completely forgot is it's raining, right? We want to see a bit more of the rain. Okay, I think I'm at the top of my undo stack. I somehow have to just make this a bit, just hide a bit the inconsistencies there. And no. And have here something like this. Yeah, more rain. Okay, this is also cool. You want to add more atmospherics to something. And we already have here the raining particle system, but it always looks nice, especially in bullshot in tempered screenshots, or in this case in concept paintings, if you add something that is more just more of the particles. So for that I would go and I would point you to some resources there on the wonderful internet. For example, DeviantArt or unsplash.com. For example, unsplash.com is very cool because you can use the images pretty much everywhere, and they're of high quality, I have to say. The downside is, I mean, those are mostly the things that you would put into presentations or something. And some, you can see here, some are already watermarked because Getty Images had, I think last year or year before, taken over Unsplash. So not everything is free anymore. But most of the time you get lucky and find certain things that you would need. For us, maybe this could work here. I will just copy this and see if I can make it work. Because again, we just want this hint of atmosphere, of particles. Paste. There we go. So I'm just picking out the part without this window pane or whatever this is, and I'm looking here now at the individual color channels and pick the one. I think red would be the one with the least where it's just rain. But again, it's not perfect, but I like the little motion blur that we can see on here. So I just select the red channel and copy only this part here from the red channel. And where are we here? And I just try where I can put this. So I put it for now on top of everything and see how or if I can make this work. So let's go and say screen. And if you imagine this over everything, it's probably a bit too strong because now you can't see anything anymore. So I'm just turning down here the shadows so that just this slight feeling there of rain persists, something like this. But again, I'm not 100% convinced. I don't think it's the right asset. So okay, this was it for Unsplash. What else can we, this is the wrong one, where else can we find stuff? And it's on DeviantArt. If you have an account on DeviantArt, it's quite cool because, let's say, rain texture, and let's cross fingers that there is not something not safe for work there, but most of the time they're pretty cool assets to be found. Many people also post Photoshop brushes if you're into those. So let's have a look here at rain dots. And we could download it. It looks like to be some sort of package so that we can download. But what's usually, you don't start with the correct image out right away. More or less, it's like yeah, click on this, and then maybe I get some more photos from the same person that maybe could work. You always, of course, depending on how you want to introduce or how you want not to introduce, you want to do you want to release those screenshots? Because then, of course, you have to be sure that it's somehow the people are credited somehow who made the original things. I mean, this is the snow texture. This looks familiar. You know what? Let's try this here. Let's try this image here and see if we can make it work. But if it's just for you, I mean, you can steal from anywhere. It's just for yourself to get a feeling, essentially. You know what? I like how this works. So I just scale it up a little and duplicate it and duplicate it again. And look at this. Instant rain. I mean, it's right now it's all very uniform. Screen, but again we can work with this. So one thing that I want with rain is usually it's more visible around where the light sources are. So I will duplicate this rain that I have now, and just so that I had the original saved, stored, and make this a bit stronger. But now I make a layer mask for the rain and only paint here where the light sources are. Again, very soft brush, a low opacity, let's say 50% opacity. And now I'm drawing in here where the rain should hit. Make it even a bit higher, the bigger inside, and the opacity I turn it down. And already looks kind of nice. I'm decreasing now the rain. And the rain should be, of course, the strongest here, the closest we are to the light source. Again, it's this quadratic fall off that we see with light and rain. You don't have to stay directly in the cone, because the water in the raindrops scatters the light, so a bit in front or in back is always good, actually, if you have it. So I duplicate this now and delete my layer mask that I have. Well, I reverse my layer mask so that nothing is selected, and do the same thing here for the tail light, like so. And because I have here my tail light, I'm everything that is in this group here that says here tail light, everything that is here gets colorized in red. So I just take here my rain, put it there, and now look at this red rain. And Frank says, I don't want to stay in the cone where the heavy rain is. Yeah, maybe some people don't want to stay there. So I'm diminishing here now some of the rain, some of the intensity, and I think it already looks good. Already looks good. Then I paste here the rest of the rain that we had before, and again I can here see, okay, how much of the rain I want. Maybe just like so, where it's just a couple of very visible drops. So this is just the steeper the curve is, the more contrast there is. So I don't want it to be overly contrasty, but something like this. And again, now I can, with the layer mask, I can just paint in where I want more or less rain. And maybe it's too strong overall, so I just turn it down a little. So what can we use this other, no, not this, the other rain that we have here from Unsplash, which I kind of like. You know what? Maybe if I scale it down and we can put it here, maybe where the tires are, so it's like that the tires are kicking up. Here's some spray. Could work, maybe. And I think what I also want probably is to add a bit more, yeah, just to make it, I don't know, a bit, some more details, I feel. For example, do we want it to be a bit more muddy, or just kick up more here of the rain here in the back? Because now finally there is the time where I'm using a different brush, and the different brush is, I have here some, over the years I made many brushes, and I have here one that's called Sparkler, which is sometimes nice. Not this time. Let me show you how Sparkler looks. Just make it a bit bigger, and I just paint it here in green, because then you can clearly see what it does, and it just does those little blobs. But also I got one that I call Salt, and this one is not as clearly visible. Maybe the salt's strong here. Yeah, it's like this grainy brush. Oh, the opacity is at 22%. This is why it's so. Yeah, essentially it's this kind of grainy appeal, and oftentimes this really helps when you just need to make something really quick that already looks like there's a lot of detail to it. For example, I can also, maybe, you know what, maybe I'm here now drawing directly, well, not directly on the background, but directly above the background. And now if this is the point where I say I don't want to sample all the layers, just the current layer with no adjustments. Current and below, no adjustments. So when I'm picking here a color, it's picking the original color that is here on this brightly friendly background. So now I'm just blending here those low poly things together with a bit of, yeah, this salt, as I called it, this grainy appeal. It's a bit like dithering, right? So, and this has already this little bit of feeling of muddiness to it, I feel. Does this work? I think it works. So that we hide a little bit the low poly aesthetic. Not that it needs to be hidden, but it helps. Like I said, it looks like there's more of the rain that is interacting there with the environment. Of course, I shouldn't have it also bleed into the stone. Like little splashes when the rain scatters back. I mean, for this, of course, it helps if you have a stylus or something, but I mean, I did this, especially for the last Ludundara. You can also do this with the mouse. The only downside that you don't have with the mouse is that it's not pressure sensitive, so that you constantly have to change here the opacity should you want to work with the mouse. And of course, you use up a lot of clicks with your mouse, but I think that's the worst of it. So let me show you how it looked before and after. It's just hiding a bit this low poly seam there in front, and this makes it already feel a bit more organic. If this is what you're after. Right, maybe you know. A little bit here, but yes, I kind of like it. Finally, do we want to have some backscattered light there? Maybe a little bit too much on our dirt bike here. I mean, right now it's really a very dirty bike. So on top of everything, I can now just pick some colors, and now I need to pick all layers with adjustments, so that I just pick here a color and it's red. And now I have here another brush that I sometimes use. I call it here pencil, because it looks a little bit like a pencil. And with that one, I also can do something that looks very wet when I draw reflections, or in this case, specular lights. Just very, very thinly, like here or there on the tires. It looks already like it's a wet reflection on something. I don't think that the egg actually would see this red here on the tail light, but it's a nice touch nevertheless. Same thing here with the bowl. I'm not quite sure if it's necessary or if it's, well, realistic in a sense, but it helps here define the shape a bit better. So same thing here for this white, for the light here. And now I'm not using any sort of blur, because again, like I said, this is important. If you use a lot of blur, you need to have something that is super sharp, strong edges or highlights, because balance. This might be too much, because as you can see, as soon as I start to make this, to make it a bit softer, it doesn't look wet anymore. So again, I'm probably doing it a bit too much here, because there shouldn't be a reflection, but there should be, and maybe here should be a reflection then. Yep. Maybe it just hints at some other lights we can't see. Yeah, it's always, this is always helpful. The darker, this is why when I'm drawing or painting, I like everything to be super dark, because then even just a couple of strokes just hint at something that you cannot quite see, and I don't know how to draw properly. So this is always good if you can hide under your deficiencies in one part with just hinting at something and having the player fill in the gaps. Finally, this block here is too bright, I feel. So again, I'm drawing there more or less on the background. Now I need to say current and below, no adjustments, so that I can make this the top of this stone slab here, of this stone cube, much darker. Well, it's probably too dark. Yeah, something like this, that it's just, or you know what, maybe I even use the lasso tool, because low poly look. Hopefully this works. There we go. It's a happy little stone cube. Hiding now my selection so that I can see a bit better what I'm doing. And maybe I want to add some dimples there on top, but no, this is low poly. This would look wrong. So before and after, it's not as distracting anymore. So yeah, I think if there aren't any other light sources in this scene, I think we are done. Maybe some lens flare from the headlight. I'm against this, probably because the headlight is not directly looking at us. This is probably the main thing why I wouldn't add a lens flare. Because with lens flares, it's easily overdone. I should know, because I like to overdo lens flares. But I mean, could there something be where we could add a lens flare? I don't think in this scene right now. But
You know what? Let me do a quick before and after.
No. Almost before, yeah. So changed quite dramatically, didn't it? Maybe we could make the buckets there in front. Maybe I could also give them some sort of reflections. I don't know how realistic this is. Where am I with my painting? Oh, again, currently below, all layers with adjustments. Paint. 4 pixels should be enough. Yeah, I think maybe I'm overdoing it here now. Maybe this is incorrect. It looks okay. Also here, there, yeah, you know what, there on the stone, where it's just hitting the part of the headlight is hitting here the stone. I think I like this. And coming to think of it, because it's so rainy, I can do some rain splashes here that are also visible there in the headlight, because it's a lot of rain now that we have here. Cool. Some shadows. Yeah, you see why I said it's best to start with thumbnails, because now I'm drawing individual blades of grass here. And the further you get away there from the headlight, by the way, if you're doing something like small stones, the shadows get longer and larger. This is maybe also something that should you, yeah, I'm just messing things up now. That should you want to do is maybe something, yeah, just to consider. I still don't know how you can just do this seemingly without any effort. Yeah, in the end, it's years and years of doing 3D graphics and photography and everything. It's just, you get a feeling for how light behaves and how light looks. I mean, I always say it, if it looks wrong, you're doing it wrong, but it's probably the same thing like a sculptor says when they are asked, hey sculptor, how do you make this amazing tiger out of this slab of marble? And they just say, yeah, I just chop away everything that doesn't look like a tiger. Simple as that. And it feels a little bit to me like this is it. But in the end of the day, as you've seen it, it all comes down to just thinking, okay, how would light look or behave? And if you don't know how light would behave like this, like a dirt bike there in the middle of the rainstorm at night, how does this look? How would it look? And if you're not quite sure, I have something that is quite something for you. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called the internet and Google Images. And if I just say dirt bike ride night, and then we probably got somewhere something that we can use as a reference. Maybe this here. Well, I mean, somewhere. It's, or maybe this. And suddenly you can see, okay, how bright are those things, how dark, maybe here. I mean, they are always lit from another side, but suddenly it's easier if you have a reference to really get a feel for how things look. Jerzek says, I definitely like the game more, but the new look looks awesome. Yeah, it depends on the feel of the game. I mean, right now it looks a bit like Inside, and less like this friendly Accelerate game there. Maybe I will tweet at Tim. One thing that I didn't do is here in the sandbox. Is this called sandbox? I think it is called sandbox. There in the background, this is very bright. Usually this would catch more of the light of the sky, and because the sky is very grayish, maybe I would paint over here. That's my old pencil there. Yeah, not what I wanted. Just that it's not this bright anymore, but yeah. maybe that's still something that could be doing this. But yeah, in the end, it's a matter of taste. And Frank said, it does look awesome. Good luck trying to achieve that with code instead of with fill. Yeah, this is once you have a concept painting, a concept art of where you want to go, it's much easier to know what to implement and what is not important. For example, in this case, if you really wanted to go for that look, I would say, I think what is important to give it this feel is dynamic shadows there on those both light sources, and as many particles as you can manage, especially around the light sources. If they are visible around the light sources, this is the most important thing. And then you can also, from this you can also see you don't need a lot of background definition. I mean, on this, of course it makes sense here that all those plants have little leaves and everything, and there are little, what are those, fruit in the trees. And should you really go for this dark thing, all you need is just have some, maybe just some texture there, and you're good. So, yeah. Here it says, yeah, it's probably it. It's because I love Inside. Yeah, Inside was great. Inside was really great. Especially the other part where you know what I'm talking about. Everyone who's played Inside knows, yeah, the thing went inside went even more crazy. Yeah, it's a great game. Yeah, I think I'm done, and maybe I can tweet this at Tim and say, hey, look, I ruined your game. And now it's a horror experience. Collect the 6 eggs and don't get caught by Dr. Eggman. We should ask Sega how they would like it. Right, we still got a couple of minutes left, so let's have a look at what we have here from Sorceress. So, Sorceress, are you still present? Because I need your guidance. What do you want? What feeling do we want to evoke with this one here? I mean, right now it feels a bit like being caught under Cthulhu's tomb. And maybe this is what you're going for. Or maybe not. I mean, no idea. Okay. Then I just say what comes to mind. Let's make this a bit bigger. And behold. I like it that it has this feeling of it's somewhere between Quake and Minecraft. And it gives me this very, very unsettling feeling of you're inside of a chamber underneath a pyramid or something Prothean that you shouldn't be. And I feel like we're standing here maybe with a torch, and we're just looking at something, at whatever is going on here. And our torch is maybe illuminating what we have here in front. And there is something bad and sickly waiting for us behind this low arch. I don't trust it. Yeah, neither do I. Yeah, that's what I was going for. Quake times Minecraft. Yeah, congratulations. I think definitely that's it. Or you're just making fun of my comparison. Okay then. You know what? What I could try. Here's this little button. It's called Color Lookup, and it says here you can load a 3D LUT. For those who don't know what a LUT is, it's a lookup table, and programmers know this, especially if you're around since the 90s and you had a lookup table for, I don't know, sine and cosine functions, because that the CPUs didn't have to calculate it every time. You just would create a LUT for this and use it. For me, coming from video and in film, a LUT is also a lookup table of how a pixel's color is can be changed or can be modified according to a certain lookup table. And usually lookup tables, 99% when I see them, they are used incorrectly, because let's say here we get here a lookup table, and it, as you can see, it just looks up where a certain pixel is in our source image and where it maps to a certain look or lookup table. The downside, of course, is that most of the time you should use the LUT in the same color space that it was made for. Most of the time it gives a very cool and a very stylized feeling. I mean, as you can see here now that I'm just flipping through it, it's like filters in Instagram, which are also just LUTs. But of course, what you have to do first, that the LUT works, applied in the color space that it was made for. And first, of course, you have to color balance and adjust just the colors first. Otherwise, the LUT would be applied to essentially incorrect colors. So why am I using a LUT right now? Because I'm just trying to get a certain feeling for which LUT looks the most interesting, and then that we can use as a starting point, because right now we only have essentially just one color in this. So this is called Futuristic Bleak, and it looks a bit like underwater, right? I mean, right now we're underwater with this, and then we got here this what I always enjoy or like. This is the Kodak 5205 Fuji 3510. Yeah, now we're in the realm of film stock, but it's always nice to have a film stock LUT sometimes, because it means that the colors behave differently. For example, the red, a saturated red, is in plain video always very bright and glaring, and on a film LUT, on a simulated film stock, it becomes very dark and saturated but not glaring. In this case, the shadows have a different color. If I switch here the LUT on or off, it becomes a bit more contrasty, but you can see here it tends to go a bit into the green, which I kind of like. There isn't a lot for you to work with, so good luck. No worries, no worries. I can work with everything. And Frank says, no, I still don't trust it sealing even with a table, even with a lookup table. Do you have a rope? I think I've played a text adventure once. Okay, so I think for now I like the LUT. Maybe I don't make it as strong. Maybe make it like 35%. So it's just a little something. The next thing is let's again play with light intensity. So one thing that I want to make is, I mean, right now we can see relatively far into the darkness. I want to make this a bit more oppressive. So no, this is not what I want. I want to darken this. So again, back to the good old original brushes. There's the soft round brush and the opacity to, again, 25%. And let's pick a color, but current layer or all layers, current and below, no adjustments before. So just that, our light doesn't reach that far back into whatever is waiting for us. Again, it's just, I'm mostly concerned with how it looks there on the thumbnail. When I have the feeling that, I kinda like how it looks there on the thumbnail. This is, this looks much gloomier, much darker still, but in a good way. You know what I mean. Will a USB cable do it? Yes, Frank, a USB cable will definitely do, unless it's a USB-C cable, because reasons. So I try to get, I mean, right now it's a bit blotchy, as always with me. So again, filter, Gaussian blur. I'm just blurring myself, hopefully into the right mood. And make this darker still. So the question is, do you want to stick with voxels, or can I maybe add some fake textures somewhere? And Yeji says, time's up, sleep imminent, good night. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Again, this will probably go up on YouTube tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So if you want to catch up and see how this ends, thank you so much. And hope you have a great night, and I wish you a great week. Bye-bye. Right, so this is where I darken things, and now I'm selectively deleting or removing darkness again. Removing darkness selectively. This is how light works, just overly convoluted, over-convolutedly expressed. It's a micro USB cable. It has this fabric covering on it. Oh, good. Well then, I wanted to, there we go, I wanted to put this fabric covering because I recently exchanged a lot of USB cables with this because it was broken at the connector there, and this can't happen apparently, so they say, with this one. So yeah, we will see about that. Okay, so I introduced a lot more darkness here, because hello darkness, my old friend. Now that's a very old song. And I'm going to lift the darkness now with a layer mask, where I say a bit less dark here, where it's just, yeah, we're standing here looking into the night, also here on top, maybe just a bit here. Or is this already too bright again? It might be a bit too bright again. Okay, and cover this up and try again. Good. Okay, I tried again. Too much. Maybe it's really too much there on the ceiling. Maybe it just needs to be dark on the bottom where we're standing, and yes, I think this makes it a bit more. It gives it that the ceiling looks like it's further away from us than the ground, which makes it look a bit, yeah, grander, for lack of a better term. Just like it's higher than it actually is. So right. Try to make it again a bit less blotchy, but maybe when I could try to paste some wallpaper onto this. Again, I don't know if this is what you want for this game, but no, undo. I wanted this. Yeah. Okay. So right now we have this little cone of light here in front of us. That's maybe, you know what, I'm just thinking of, wallpaper is fine. Okay, then I will have here my rough pastel, and with this rough pastel I will just try, no, this is not rough enough. I have here fill splatter. Yeah, this is too splattered. Again, let's try with my strong salt. And just to hint at, yeah, this is somehow sandy. Here the floor, but also not too much. Something like this. Okay, then for starters, good. Okay, so the next thing that I feel is important for us is what is going on here. What is going on back there with this arch? New layer. And I want to keep whatever this foreground thing is. I want to keep it out of that. Close. Did I close this? Yeah. Hiding now my selection. And is it hiding my selection? And I will go, I think, with green again, with something greenish, or maybe it's a cyan green blue, something like this, And where is my soft brush? At the very top. Opacity 35%. This might be too strong. Let's go with 9%. And still too strong. Why is 9% suddenly looking like this? Yeah, because we have here an exposure and the color look up. So this is how it looks originally. So this is why when because of turning up the exposure this much, my 9% opacity look a lot more big. So 1%. 1%. I think 1% is fine. So here we got this weird streak of light, and it should be sharper on the top, I feel. And sharper on the bottom as well. So yeah, this was the mask that I was moving, not the wrong, not the right mask. So now it's behind this corner there. No, don't like it. Like it better before when it was spilling out a little, like this. Yeah. Right. Let's have a look at it now. Okay, something is in there. Something is in there, and the floor is a bit wonky. Not that wonky, Phil. Let's say 5 pixels. Something like this. Of course, it can't go beyond here. It spills a little bit too softly. This is also when you have some sharp edges. Don't be soft. There you really need this very sharp edge. Again, otherwise it looks fake, because yeah, sometimes in nature certain things are very hard and very defined. For example, the edge of a meadow to the forest. Unless you have little saplings or something, trees going there, or shrubs, and usually it's surprisingly hard. The music is a bit busy and distracting for me. Oh dear, what is happening here with the music? It's bad mojo. I'm sorry. Cuphead. FTL should be fine. Thank you for pointing this out. The music works better for background, still maybe a bit too loud. Okay, good. Good. Turn it down a little bit. Thank you. Right, so what else? There we have this bounce. I want this bounce here of the light. Why don't I see the bounce of the light? Oh, I was drawing with the eraser. Classic. Too strong, soften. Okay, so looks like somehow now it reminds me of Unreal, like there's a body of water there. But maybe it should have this feeling of, you know what, there's something nice in there. But well, is there, or is it just to lure you to this location? I don't know. Let's keep drawing and find out. Okay, I messed up here. So like I said, if you don't take the pen up and put it down again, you can't exceed a certain opacity level. So this is why I'm keeping my pen down to draw these things here. So, it's a bit softer here. Good. Nice green glowing water. Yeah, I mean, I grew up around Chernobyl, so no, I did not. But I remember it as a kid. I couldn't go out. My grandparents wouldn't let me. Coming to think of it, now that I look at it, maybe it's not a green light source. It's a green glowing fog. Let's call this Minequake. Maybe this is a green fog. I will duplicate this layer now, just so that I have it in case something goes wrong. And I'm using here the smudge tool. This smudge tool, excuse me, is also something that people say don't use it. I think I said this before. But for things like swirls and fog and such, it's quite helpful, actually. So if I disable this now, of course, I duplicated the wrong thing, because I need this and this together. Okay, combine. And now I take, for my smudge tool, I take a brush that has some bristles, like this round blunt medium. Well, by the way, this is a 3D brush, so depending on how I rotate my pen, also here this virtual brush rotates. So we will see how this goes. So I'm just making little circles with this. And trying to see if this is working. But it looks a bit too fantasy-like, I think. Or now you can't really tell what's going on here. Mindquake, yeah. Okay, let's try again. Maybe use a different brush. See, this is why I copy it, and then try again, essentially. So combine this, and this is how I usually draw smoke. I use a small brush. I think I've showed this in one stream or another. Use a small brush, like let's go here with this is opacity one, with 2 pixels, and draw, or maybe draw something like this, or this, a smoke shape, and then have a bigger brush right next to it, like so, and roughly have those things mingle, and then I use the smudge tool with a relatively soft and round tip. The tip is that large that it encompasses both, and then I just go around like this and keeping the swirls, and it looks a bit like smoke. Now I think you need to go a bit bigger, like so. But yeah, this is how I make smoke. And maybe I was thinking maybe this also works for, I just drew on top of it. Maybe this also works here, but where I just take here the small brush and do these things here. Yeah, I like this. I like this. So. Yeah, this looks much better. So yeah, something is going on here. Something is going on here. I like this. So there we have blue fog / water. Not quite certain what is happening here, but it doesn't look wholesome. Can I increase the glow here in the middle? Because now I will just try to see what happens if I make this flames. Is it too soft now? Or do we like it? One thing that is a bit weird is that here this blue thing here is spilling out too much into the foreground. For this thing here in the foreground to be illuminated, this should go out here somewhere. I mean, yeah, now what I've done here, we could try what I just did here by drawing this snaking line, because maybe, again, just playing around. No, not like this. Soft brush, very flat. And the opacity is dependent on how hard. Right. Am I on a new layer? I should better be. I mean, it doesn't look realistic in any sense, or even plausible. I mean, in terms of, as we've had it before, with perspective, right? So. But apart from that, I kind of like the idea. Not quite sure if Sorceress likes the idea. of something sneaking its way out. Yeah, I'm torn. I'm torn. You know what? Let's scrap this for now and see if what else we can do here. Right. For one thing, I like this green thing now. The longer I look at it, maybe we also want to add some more shadows. I already hinted at here there is some shadowing going on here, but maybe I wanted to make it even stronger. So I pick up here this shadow color that I had here and maybe draw in some more shadows. Can we see this? I can't. it's the glare is too much and I'm already out of the vision of the camera. So I'm not quite sure if this is how the light source here works. But I like the shadows as always because they give it some sense of perspective, but not quite certain if it's the correct perspective. Go. How does this look? It looks a bit wrong, doesn't it? Yeah, because the light source is coming from this, but also from this. I mean, I really like the contrast that it creates, but it's wrong. Bummer. Does this work maybe? Not sure. Not sure. Just make it slightly dark here on the back wall. I think then we can have something that works. Yes. Yes, I think this is good. Just a hint of some light occlusion going on there. Can we do this also up here? Would this benefit from some faked details? I mean, I really like this ceiling because again, it feels, as Frank said, it feels precarious. And you know what? Let's make this ceiling even darker. We don't know how far this leads up to. What is or is not jumping down at us. But it's so dark, even with the brightness here turned up, with the glare of my light. I hope that I'm not overpainting something that looks just outright wrong. Anyway, I think this should work. I'm cutting off the excess bits now. There we go. So some more details there. Like this. Can you see this? I mean, it's very dark. And I just want to hint at some more definition there in those slabs or stones or sand.
Slip speed, it's the new game for MS-DOS. Slip speed, racing around.
Is this Martijn's special hidden track? I think it is.
And it also lacks multiplayer, but the audio-visual presentation is really nice. Slip speed, drifting around, viewed from the top. Slip speed, it's so much fun you cannot stop. Please buy the full version so the developer doesn't have to sell his children to a slave trader or worse.
So I tried to give it a bit more ambient occlusion, or at least, well, yeah, faked ambient occlusion essentially, but something is still missing there. Maybe I want, since it's so prominent here with this ceiling there, this precarious ceiling, maybe, you know what, maybe I want some light shining down from it. Because I really like this weird shape of it. So let's try this, because we can. And let's make this, I don't know, a red light. For now, we can still change the color, as always. So hardness, let's make it soft. Yeah, this is maybe a bit too much. And if I make this even softer and blur and blur and blur, and suddenly this looks like something. And it clearly looks like my mask is not spot on. That's what it looks like. So let's draw here the mask a bit. No, what did I do? No, what is going on here? Oh, I'm in the selection mode. Everything's good now. Brush. There we go. Yeah, this needs to be dark. No. Sorry for fighting against Photoshop here. Here it's a bit better with what I did. So yeah, we got this sickly red light shining down from the top. But now it should somehow also have here, maybe, we should maybe, should we see it down here? I'm also a bit torn. Or is it just too strong? I think it's just too strong. And are we happy with the light source, with the color itself? Let's make it here a bit more intense. And now I just add here a hue corrector, and we can just move around. Should there be a soft reddish glow on the floor under it? Yes, there should be. But first I just want to play around here with the color. I mean, when it's blue, it looks like, oh, it's nice, there's sky up ahead. So maybe the red already works, but maybe if it's not a red, but more of a little purplish red. Something like this. I think this could work. And with that color, or I can even colorize it, then it doesn't matter what color I paint with. Because now I can just paint here. I said I can paint just here. Oh, of course I can't. Because I need to also paint here the mask. I think I'm getting a bit tired now. Yeah, now you can see here. Because this is my mask. There we go. This is my mask, and it was only up here. So this is why it didn't show there on the floor. But now it should show on the floor. And yeah. No, God, no. Yeah, we want this shape down here, soft at the floor. And this is really where perspective is making it problematic for me, because now I have to guess how this shape would look like if projected downwards. And I don't think I can do this here off the top of my head. I mean, we can try. We can try. But it kind of, I don't know, it kind of looks wrong. But I really like this glow that we have here on top. But it looks wrong. To make this look right, I mean, we could try something. We could try one thing. And this is, let's make ourselves a very small brush, default. And just project downwards what is going on here with those blocks. Hope the perspective is right, but I mean, not quite. Maybe now. Maybe now. Now I only need to draw a grid there on the floor as well. And yeah, these are the downsides, especially when you're trying to work with perspective, when it's not working. So, Frank says, I think the combination of it being a soft glow and the light possibly being higher up, so you might not be able to see the shape exactly, will make it work. So yeah, that the light source is very high up, then it becomes here more blurry. The thing is, if the light source is higher up, then the shadow actually will be more defined, because the further away a light source is, the harder the shadow is, depending on the size of the light source. Right now, what we have here is that it looks like the light source is barely out of view, so it means it would scatter quite well here. So if this is larger, so essentially we're getting to the same thing, what you just said. Because now that the light source is relatively low hanging there, why am I not drawing? There we go. Because the light source is relatively low hanging there, we should actually see it softer. Right, Sorcerer says there would also be scattered light from the sides of the shaft. Yes, yes and yes, absolutely. So we would have it here, soft, soft. Yes, I like this very much. Maybe here one more. Something like this, and then blur. And can we also maybe have it here, blur. I think this is how it could work. So overall, it's messy enough that having a blobby glow should be just fine. Exactly. Yeah, the only thing here for the blobby glow is that it should not extend that far back. I think this is the only issue that I have with it now. And if I can just make it a bit more jagged. Further we get back here. I want it to be much softer. Yeah, I think that works. And good for you, automated unicorn. Good for you. You know what? Now coming to think of it, it interferes a little bit here with this front glow that we have from the torch that we were holding. So maybe, and I'm just thinking here, maybe if we darken here the foreground again as well. Maybe not that much, but you see what I mean? Because now suddenly it has more depth to it because we're not the light source ourselves. Okay, I will try this again now. This is why I always like to keep things in with masks, with shapes that I can always turn things or just reveal only things that I need, and I don't have to delete things like here that I already drew. Look at this, I like this. I like this. Is this here in the front still too bright? I mean, we took something that was very dark, brightened it up, and now we were making it dark again. But I, you know what? Like I said, I kind of like it. I kind of like it. Cool. You know what? I think this helped it. Yeah, as I said here, for the wallpapering of things. Just try to make this a bit more defined here. And the unicorn pooped another rainbow, so which means I've been streaming for over 3 hours now. So maybe I should try to come to a close here. But yeah, as for, you know what, I want some more atmospherics. You know me, I love me my atmospherics, whatever those may be. But first, I try to make it a bit brighter again. Like so, just a bit more contrast. Oh, this was too much. Just a bit more contrast. And this is where the 16-bit come in handy, because I'm constantly decreasing contrast, increasing contrast, and without having enough bits definition in the color values, I would just be fighting against Photoshop at this point. Saving, this is good. Atmospherics, this is what I meant. No, what I promised, not what I meant. Third bike, no. There's the one. Because now I'm just looking for dust modes texture. And there we got dust. Just a little sprinkle of dust. I'm going to copy this now and just paste it in there, and not just anywhere, but here where we have our red. And what is happening here? And yeah, the thing is, because we have be brightening things up this much. Yeah, this is where this is coming from. So I need to increase here the brightness of the dust modes that we have imported, and say we want to say screen here. Screen. Saturation. Why is it as it is? Linear dodge. Overlay. Screen. Yeah. And as for the dust modes themselves, I mean now we have sparkles. Those aren't dust modes anymore. Those are sparkles. So I will try to well, yeah, you know what? I will use one of my scatter brushes to make it even finer. Where's my salt? There it is. And with my salt, default, I'm just drawing a scatter brush on top of everything. At least this is the theory, to decrease a little bit here the frequency of whatever is happening here. And you can see here some of them are burning out, not from red but into purple a little bit, or well, it's not purple, it's fuchsia actually, and this is again because we're cranking up the intensity that much. So again, they are just too strong and too many of them. But now I think now we're getting somewhere. It's just a little bit, just that we feel it, that there's something in the air that's not good. I don't know if you can see it here in stream, but here it's quite prominent once we get closer. Cool. And as I've said with the vignetting, maybe we could try vignette just again to draw the viewer's gaze. And by that I'm making things darker again, but I will add now here a layer mask and have a very, where's my soft brush? I have a pastel brush, or charcoal, let's try charcoal, which has a bit of a texture. With which I can brighten up where I don't want this vignette to be. And with that, I get a relatively organic shape where we as a viewer are drawn towards the center of the image. Again, this is before and after this vignette, so it's really, once you see it, it's too strong. But again, like I said, you want to just feel the vignette, the darkening towards the edges, especially in this setting. So essentially what I've done is we started with an image where the light source was the viewer, and now we've moved the light source away from the viewer. So yeah, maybe this contrast here is too strong because there's already some clipping going on here in our fire. So I turn this down a little bit. And finally, we could try to give this some texture, like I said. And there's one thing, oh, got an email. There's one thing to give this a texture is to have some grunge over on top of everything, which also helps to hide maybe some low poly things. Or the other thing is, like I said, with trying to do a wallpaper, essentially. So very quickly, because I'm already starting to lose my voice, I just say Cthulhu texture and see what we come up with here on a DeviantArt. And there is nothing that I really like. Let's say old temple texture. And no, let's just say stone texture maybe. I just wanted something maybe with already some sort of engravings. But yeah, let's just pick here this stone wall and copy it. It doesn't have to be high poly or high resolution or anything. Stock from Ian Frank DeviantArt. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm stealing right now. But I'm not using this for anything apart from educational purposes anyway, so it should be fine. So one thing, of course, when I'm wallpapering this, we don't have any sort of perspective correction. So this essentially is how the PlayStation 1 did 3D graphics. It just when you gave it some vertices on a 3D mesh, it would just stretch the texture assigned to it between those. And this means, of course, that no texture, no perspective correction. So this might look a bit weird that we have here. But I will just try to overlay this like so, and maybe we can get away with it. So, and for the other side, there we go. This is what I meant with wallpapering. I put this into a new group and now have it softly fade out into the distance so that it's just that we have here in front our textures, and then it becomes a bit softer. So there we go. And this is my mask. And my opacity is... Why are you always firing when I don't want you to? So there is charcoal 5, and again with charcoal 5 I'm gradually trying to smooth out here where we have possible problems. Just trying to hide that it's really slapped on top of everything. And as soon as we have a little bit of texture there, talking about texture, what we also have here is that it says here that where we took this from. So maybe I can move it up a little. There we go. And hide some of this transition here into the block. And finally, as always, you know me, I like some details. Maybe we can add something of a little yeah, a something of a little something. And that is, let me take here one of these red things there. Again, I need to say I want to sample all layers with adjustments so that I can get here this red we have here. And with my pencil, it's a very small pencil. Opacity 100%. And why can't I see anything? Size 2 pixels. Why don't I see what I'm drawing? This is weird. Oh, now I see it. So then 3 pixels, okay. And let's make this entirely red. So that I'm just here drawing in some, as if there were some weird veins in the rocks themselves. We are hearing Cuphead again, so if this is too exhausting to listen to, but it's a great soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack. So, you know what? Let's try this and make it a bit stronger even. Where it's the rocks and the stones have veins. Like this. Yeah, I think this is, okay, this is creepy somehow. I like this. Something is growing there. Maybe it's already starting down here as well. I'm one of those people who can't work with music. Having music in streams can sometimes do the same thing to me a bit. Okay, yeah, especially with Cuphead. I totally get it. You know what? Let's find something that's a bit more soothing. Playback cursor follows playback. What are we listening to? Mist. This is always good and soothing. So hopefully this makes it not too exhausting for you. But I know what you mean. I can't work when there is music with lyrics. Even when I'm, I don't know, somewhere in a cafe or something, when there's music with lyrics, or worse, even when they're listening to a radio station and they are playing commercials. It's just why I can't concentrate. Please stop. Other people like my wife, they can completely shut this out, and I envy her because yeah, I can't. So this thing is growing out of where it's coming from, and it's corrupting everything else here. So I don't know, Sorceress, if you're still there, if you still like it or not, but yeah, I hope I didn't make it too horrible. So I would say, from my end, this is, relatively speaking, what I could come up with in the time. Of course, the more time I can spend with it, the more things maybe or magically may arise. But I find the EVE Online tracks make excellent background working music. Oh, space games, as long as they aren't not too tumultuous. Oh, I think especially the soundtrack to FTL is good, but then again, I just listen to the soundtrack and not work anymore because the soundtrack is too good. So you want something in between that is a little bit driving, but not too much. Yeah, and sometimes I just put on some metal and there we go, and it's programming time. Mr. Troy is here. Mr. Troy says, I can't shut it out. It's easier with music, even with lyrics, yet harder with absolute silence. Oh, interesting. Because as with me, as soon as, like I said, lyrics or someone talking, it's weird. But I have a nice app, and it's called White Noise, but it's not just white noise. The one that I have, it doesn't even cost anything, weirdly, allows you to put mixes together. For example, I have a mix of heavy rain and shore, and you can even position it spatially. And this is something that is, to me, it did wonders. And talking makes me feel like I'm not working alone, so that helps. Do you know Coffeetivity or something? It's a website that has coffee house atmosphere. It's like an hour of various kinds of recorded coffee houses, which I find, I always wanted to try it. Yeah, so maybe this helps you, because to me, the worst thing that I always have is when I want to sit somewhere in the cafe, have this constant babble of voices, but no definitive voices that I can understand, but that are also loud enough that I don't hear any music that might be playing. This is the best for me. But then suddenly next to the table to me is a couple, and they start arguing or something, and you cannot not listen. And this is white noise. This really helped me. Right. I'll just stick this on the game box, Frank, says Sorceress. Yeah, cool. So I hope at least something. You could say, yeah, this is how some weird guy on the internet tried to completely not get the idea of the game. So yeah, if it's okay for you, Sorceress, if I post a before and after on Twitter and or Mastodon, because I think there has been quite a change. The interesting thing is it looks, what you have here before, let me make this a bit brighter. What you had here before was weird and unsettling on a different level. Mine feels now, yeah, it's the usual, I don't know, corruption of stones or something. But yours, because there is so much black there, it feels different. It feels weird and horrible on a different scale. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Do what you like. Okay, thank you. Because again, I don't want to do this without people's permission. So, I have to ask Tim Baudet if I could also do this for his thing. Cool. All right, then I'm quite happy with the results today. This was a quite productive stream. I hope there were one or two things. Let me find what else we did today. I called it monkey and not mine, right? I just realized it. I called it money quake and not mine quake. Well, and there's the other one, right? So just that I can put it there, arrange, 3 up, horizontal. Yeah, this does not work. I just wanted to have it here, a nice overview of what we did today. I think, yeah, maybe this works. And now looking at the things or the paint overs that I made today, I notice visually a theme. Don't you? It's dark, it's greenish yellow dark with definitive light sources here and there, and yeah. So yeah, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope this was useful. You learned one or two small little tricks, and even if not, again, it's in the end it's just playing around with shapes and colors, and you don't really have to draw anything. You don't need to do live drawings, and even if you're not quite sure with where to go in terms of lighting, Google Images is just one click away for you to find inspirations. And again, even if it's not realistic or real or whatever or authentic what you make, the thing about this is it's more about experimenting of where you want to go. I mean, I have a certain style, it seems, where my artworks end up with, but maybe you haven't found your own. So yeah, just go ahead, experiment. You don't have to show this to anyone. This I started out with. It was a tool for myself to help me go in a certain direction, especially with making games or with looks or something, just so that I know, okay, it's what things that I can spend most time on, and other things where I know, okay, they won't be seen, they will be just shrouded by darkness. I don't have to model them, for example. So yeah, they're all bright and happy, says Frank. Yeah, depends on your personal outlook. Some dark souls are out there who think maybe this is not even, this is even happy. Yeah. Right. Okay then. I'm almost quarter of an hour past my bedtime. So yeah, I hope you have a great week. Thanks everyone who rated. If anyone is still there, if not, no worries. I rambled a lot. And yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm really sorry that you had to sit through my rambling. I hope you just skipped to the end and how it looked before. So if you're one of these, and yeah, just please leave me a comment or something. You know how this happens, or how this works. I don't need to tell you. Right. Again, everyone, have a wonderful week. I see you next Sunday with something, and I will probably now put this on Twitter and then go to bed. Right. With that being said, should we raid someone? And thank you, Cursibu. Yeah, hopefully it was a calm stream, despite the erratic movement of the music sometimes and me not keeping it Bob Ross, but always getting overly excited about arty things. What's the plan for next weekend? Game dev. I want to keep working on my adventure game. I don't know, last time I showed you this one mock-up of an adventure game with a character with my likeness, and from that point on it has spiraled a little bit. In terms of art, it's still this one character of me, but I got back into the documentation with Adventure Game Studio. With Connie together, we're already working on the plot of a silly little adventure that's set here around Salzburg. Yes, it will involve coffee, and yes, it will involve unicorns, and it will be a little bit silly, but I don't want it to be just in jokes or anything. So the adventure essentially should work on its own terms, and if you recognize the one odd in joke, it's cool, and if you don't, it still should be funny. So this is the plan. And yeah, like I said, I already got half a story. I still need to finish the third act and then do a puzzle dependency chart. Yeah, next week. Frank is off to sleep, too tired, probably taking part in a raid now. No worries. You know what? And yeah, coffee, always coffee. You know what? I'm also too tired to take part in a raid now, so it probably would be unfair if I just send you to someone and then not partake in their stream, because yeah, I got to go to bed now. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Hope you have a great week, and yeah, as always, I will see you with the next stream. And where is my stream deck? There we go. It's been so long that I properly ended the stream. So yeah, bye bye.